Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Let's get everybody in here, man. Let's get everybody up in here. Hope you got your notifications. Hope everybody got their notifications. Happy Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope everything was great for you. Hold on one second. We have a lot to cover today. My man Siobhan coming in the building. All right. What's up? Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mike D is in the building here. Siobhan said he's jumping on the few. Let's let everybody come up in here. Let's see we getting some people in here, getting some eyes in the building. How was everybody's weekend? How's everybody doing? Man, I guess I can start this off a bunch of different ways. I really want to start this off by talking about Midnight Marauders and Into the 36 Chambers. These albums celebrated 31 years now. It was 30 years last year. What up, Poets and Rhymes? What up, Super? What's really good, man? You know what? Sorry I got cut off the other night. Had to, get some dinner and all that stuff. We had a great conversation, though. And really, I was the one that kind of spearheaded the conversation. Shout out to Leroy. He was a good sport about it. I wanted to mess with Leroy because I know that, he was caping very heavy, and I wanted to have a real conversation real quick. I didn't know how extensive the conversation was going to get, but Super, you were over there talking some real spit, brother. Like Super was really, coming up with some great points. If y'all know what I'm talking about the conversation that happened over the weekend on Weekend Rhyme with Leroy and Ron. And we're talking about a little bit of political jargon and how it relates to the hip hop community and how it relates to just the hip hop generation. One of the main objectives when I started recording the hip hop, yeah, I did, Super. I started a fight and I bounced. No, you seem like you had it. You know what I'm saying? I was like, yeah, Super got this. But, everything you were saying was on point. One of the main objectives when I started recording the hip hop was to create a space for dialogue, right? And not just dialogue where we're talking about hip hop albums and classics and all the stuff that really formed us in our formative years, but also being able to have discussions about things that affect people of the hip hop generation. And I think sometimes, when we have conversations about socio-political things, people get very, very sensitive and they get very closed-minded to outside opinions or opinions that are adverse from what they're used to or things that stretch their imagination, which I think is very interesting because, I came up on Public Enemy. I came up on Ice Cube and the messaging and the bold messaging that they came forth with. Same thing with like Black Star, and even down the comment. I was listening to B the other day. It's so many. B's not political per se, but it's very hopeful, right? And it's very conscious. And when you talk from a level of consciousness, there are different approaches to consciousness as well. And I think that sometimes, just thinking outside the box for some people is scary. And I get that. Lord with the super chat says Soul Burger. What did y'all think about the Ab-Soul album? Y'all know Ab-Soul's my guy, man. And our first listen, I was kind of, but I'm going to give it more listens before I really, really do a deep dive in it because I like Ab-Soul. Personally, for anybody who has been watching, A2HH Live or Mike Check, y'all know that Ab-Soul is my personal favorite member of TDE. So I'm definitely going to give it even more of a listen. But yeah, I think we had a great conversation over the weekend, and I hope Leroy joins the chat. Maybe we can jump in the room too. But I just wanted to kind of shake some things up. Yeah, Super's right. I shook some things up and I kind of dipped out. But anyway, we'll probably get to that in a second. I did want to really highlight one of the glorious release dates in hip hop history. Let me rewind too, because when we talk about release dates, we're talking about music and hip hop music. First of all, in the digital era, and I hate to sound like a get off my lawn type of hip hop fan, but the way that people consume music is different now, right? Release dates are different. even the approach to making albums is extremely different. I think that now artists are making projects, mixtapes, albums, whatever you want to call it, with the mentality of saying, okay, these are going to be on streaming platforms. People are going to put together their own playlists. I'm trying to make it on certain playlists. So when you're making a project, you're making projects possibly with the mentality of saying, I want to make it on a playlist from here, a playlist from here, a playlist from here, a playlist from here. I don't think people really make albums that are supposed to ride from beginning to end. At least, not younger artists, right? On that glorious day in November when we got Midnight Marauders, A Tribe Called Quest's third album, many people feel like Tribe's best album. I think it's their second best album, but nevertheless, it's a classic album. We got that album, and we got Wu-Tang's Into the 36 Chambers. Into the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers, their debut album, on the same day. A couple of weeks after that, we got Doggy Style from Snoop Dogg. Now, a release date like that is super important because you have two of the greatest hip hop groups of all time, one of them making their debut album. And, growing up, looking at the cover of Into the 36 Chambers or Into the Wu-Tang, whatever we want to call it, I'll just call it 36 Chambers for this conversation so we can keep things a little short. Thumbs up in the chat too, by the way. Thumbs up. Let's get some more people in here. We're going to have a real conversation about hip hop and people who use hip hop and is mass media culture or just mass culture using hip hop as a springboard and not giving back. I don't think we've had that conversation before. But anyway, when you have a group like Wu-Tang coming through with such an important piece of work, I didn't really think about it. And I guess because, I grew up on it, I'm looking at the album cover for Into the 36 Chambers. That's one of the greatest album covers ever. Like, it's so mysterious. It's so, and Ghostface said something really real. I was listening to Supreme Clientele yesterday when he said, when the face got revealed, game got real. And these guys were masked up. You didn't know how many people were in the crew. It was such a level of mystery behind this crew that was coming out of Staten Island. I don't know about you guys, but I had never heard of any rappers coming out of Staten Island before. I had never heard any sounds like that before. I had never heard a collective be able to rhyme to the level that Wu-Tang was able to rhyme before, all on one track. Like, everything felt like a posse cut. We've never, ever seen anything like that. You had somebody like a Method Man who existed in his own chamber. You had somebody like a Raekwon who existed in his own chamber. Old Dirty was different. The sounds with RZA was different. Jizza, in my personal opinion, and many people in the clan would say themselves, to me, he was the best rapper on Into the 36 Chamber. Like, he was the best lyricist. You could tell he was well put together. You could tell he was somewhat seasoned. He actually had a full-length album before this album. So he was kind of the veteran in the crew. And the standout, in my opinion, Method Man, of course. He had a solo song. Method Man on the hooks. Method Man's hooks are the connector to Wu-Tang. Like, that group, every single member is so important in their own individual way. And it's really, really, really tough to pinpoint an MVP of that group. It's an easy thing to say RZA, and RZA could be. RZA's the Abbott. He pulled everything together. He produced everything. He made these guys believe. But it's something about what Method Man was able to bring to the table, not only on the debut album, but on Tikal, but on Only Built for Cuban Links. What he was able to bring forth on Liquid Swords, Shadowboxing, what he was able to bring forth on Wu-Tang Forever is something about, to me, I think RZA is the culture of Wu-Tang, but the crossover ability of this iconic group, this iconic symbol, and the fact that Wu-Tang is known through every walk of life. Method Man, as an MC, has a lot to do with that. And as an artist, Old Dirty Bastard has a lot to do with that. Method Man and Old Dirty were the stars in the group. saying all that to say, the foundation of all of those individuals is so important though. The fact that you do have guys like Ghostface, Raekwon, Jizza, Inspector Deck, like you got a lineup like that, and Capadonna, of course, you got Master Killer. I mean, when you have a lineup where in many circles you can name 4 guys before you get to an MC with at the level of an Inspector Deck, you have an incredible crew. Now, I've never seen anything like these guys before. And so when Into the 36 Chambers, when you see those music videos come on BET or whatever back in the day, it's like, who are these guys? It's like that meme from hey, what's his name from In Living Color? Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's like, who the fuck are these niggas? Like, who are these guys? And when you hear each person rhyme, everybody's rhyming with a whole different style, with a whole different cadence, a whole different flow. And then when they went solo, it was like everybody had their own individual chamber. That's why we talk about RZA as a top hip hop producer of all time, because what he was able to do within that group and within those individual personalities, with all those individual first round solo efforts, was amazing. You had the production style of what Ray and Ghost were doing, or just Ray on Only Built for Cuban Links. And then Ghost did something different on Iron Man. And then Old Dirty did something different on the Dirty version. And the fact that he was able to produce an act like Old Dirty and make an album like he did is fucking incredible. Then you had Method Man doing what he did with Takal. Then you had the Sonics of what was on Liquid Swords. Like, all of these albums were drastically different, but at the same time, high-level classic material, or had high-level classic material on it. And I mean, I'm just going to say it. It's not even fair to compare Wu-Tang if we're comparing the whole atmosphere of it all and the whole stratosphere of it all. It's not even fair to compare Wu-Tang to any other hip-hop group. Member for member, bar for bar, and talent for talent, they're the best hip-hop group of all time. Now, I think the fair thing to do is to rate groups based on the group output, right? And the group albums. And when you do it like that, it makes it a little bit fair. And even with that being said, Into the 36 is the best group album that Wu-Tang put together. It was the Pillage is awesome. Y'all know how I feel about the Pillage. Y'all know how I feel about Kappa. I love Kappa. I think that when you look at Wu-Tang and everything that they were able to do with this album, the fact that they had these street hits like Wu-Tang Clan Ain't Nothing to Fuck With, and you have these mega, I don't want to say street classics, but just hip hop classics like a Cream. Could It Be So Simple? Mystery of Chess Boxing, METHOD. It's like, this is where the impact starts. And for a lot of people, whether you are a Wu-Tang head or fan or not, you know who these guys are. You know what they're about, and you know the level of lyricism that they set forth. When you think about Wu-Tang, the first thing you think about is lyrics. Now, the production's incredible too. RZA did his thing. But you think about lyrics and lyricism. When you break down a group like this, just put it in these terms. Outside of New York, maybe LA or whatever, if you take one of the 4 best members of this group, these guys can rank in any city. These guys can rank in any city. Ray, Ghost, Meth, and Jizza rank in any city. They do. Like, this group's level of talent, MC for MC, it's not even close when you talk about other groups. It's just not. And they could even go out in different segments where it's like Ray and Ghost. Boom. You can have, you know what I'm saying, Meth, and really Meth and Dirty could do their own thing. Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, Capadonna is a better rapper than most mainstream MCs, and he's a lesser known member of Wu. It's just special. I'll go even further than that. I think for a lot of people's estimation, and not saying it's in any disrespectful manner, because Wu-Tang is a very, very heavyweight group. I think in many people's estimation, people would say that You God is probably the weakest member of the group. Okay. And then maybe followed by Master Killer or something like that. Master Killer in any other collective is a great MC. You know what I'm saying? He's a great MC in his own right anyway. You God in any other collective is a standout. Like You God got flow, You God got a voice, and this group is just the depth of this group lyrically and the density of this group lyrically is just insane. I've always said, man, Wu-Tang Forever, and because it's a double disc, when you listen to that album, these guys had grown a lot more from, when they made their debut, even though I do think the debut has a level of rawness that identifies with who they are as a crew and as a group. And it also has the hits on there. But I do think that they're a little bit more polished on Wu-Tang Forever. And for a group like them, being polished might not be in a level of elevation for some, right? But I will say this, being polished makes you a polished MC. And when you listen to Wu-Tang Forever and all the great verses on there and all the verses that probably wouldn't even get notarized on that album, but I mean, it's lyrically dense. There's not many albums that are as lyrically dense as Wu-Tang Forever. Hold on one second. Back, am I back? Am I back? There we go. Yeah, shout out to Wu-Tang. It said You God would fit better with Onyx. Man, I think You God would adapt with a lot of different groups. But yeah, shout out to Wu-Tang. Hopefully Wu-Tang will be the next group inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I have no doubt that Wu-Tang is going to make it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I really don't know what has taken so long, but hey, Tribe just got in. Midnight Marauders, though. Before I move on to the next thing and get Siobhan in the room, Midnight Marauders, man. Midnight Marauders. Y'all know me, I'm a Low End Theory guy. I think Low End Theory's a top 10 hip-hop album of all time. But some of Tribe's best work is on Midnight Marauders. You can't really listen to that album and say, this is 1993. Award Tour does not sound like a record that was made in 1993, and definitely not a hip-hop record that was made in 1993. It's so advanced. It's such an elevation for Tribe. Even though, like I said, I think the Low End Theory end to end, just plays incredibly well. But sonically, the elevation where you got an electric relaxation, an award tour, you got lyrics to go, you got the chase. The elevation that is made on that album from a production standpoint and how comfortable Q-Tip sounds, and how comfortable Fife sounds, their contrast, it's really the last time that we heard those guys sound that incredible together. And really, it could be argued that that's when they sounded the most in sync. I always will say, man, a third album from an artist or a collective or a group that really gets in the lab, it could either be one of their weakest efforts or the best effort, because you have this collective or this artist, this act, basically putting together the rawness of the first album and putting together what they learned and the elevation from the second album and pulling these things together. And I think we get a little bit of that with Midnight Marauders. Not as much as we did with Outkast with Akuma. I think Outkast really meshed Southern Playalistics, musicality, and their lyrical growth from ATLians and made Akuma. But the song-making ability on Midnight Marauders for Tribe is just through the roof. And even when we compare this to, Slang Editorial's crazy, man. Listen, man, y'all gonna make me put on Capadonna. Super Ninjas, Milk This Cow, got Run. I like his version of Run way better than Ghost. And Ghost is my guy. But yeah, I mean, the song-making ability that was on Midnight Marauders was just incredible. And I think from here on out, man, we have to celebrate a date like that where you had two incredible, groundbreaking releases that changed the game. I mean, Tribe had already changed the game, but they were continuously changing the game. Tribe, for the people who weren't there, and Tribe is slightly before my time too. But from what I understand, whenever Tribe was going to come out with an album, people knew that, okay, sounds are about to shift. They knew that A Tribe Called Quest was going to come with some new shit. And so from people's instinctive, they already were out there. They were already doing something different, daring to be different. But when the Low End Theory came, that changed many things. It really amplified that jazz and hip hop fusion. And so when a group like that does those type of things, it's like, okay, what's next? It's like, okay, I got you, Midnight Marauders. And Midnight Marauders didn't disappoint. And like I said, for many, it is Tribe's best effort. To me, you know what I'm saying? It's right up there. That album cover, though, and we talking about album covers, that was one of the things that really stood out in my mind, was the fact that both of these album covers, it almost was like these album covers were in competition with each other. Like, who could come with the greater album cover? That Midnight Marauders album cover with all of the hip-hop heads on there is incredible. And you had the logo right there, incredible. On the other end, Into the 36 Chambers, incredible album cover. To me, both of those are top 10 hip-hop album covers. I think I got both of these albums on vinyl, man. Shout out to those guys, man. Same day, incredible piece of work. Let me go ahead and get Siobhan in the room, man. Add you to the joint. How we doing, sir?
Yo, what's good?
That's good, man. Nice jersey, man. Is that Penny?
Penny, yes, sir.
And Penny, man, when Jordan retired and went and played baseball for a second, man, Penny was my guy.
Yes, sir, man.
Penny was my guy, man.
Man, if he never got that injury, man, he was part
of
Kobe.
If Shaq would have never left him, I don't think he would have gotten that injury. But whatever.
Yeah.
You know what? Shaq hated on Penny, man. Shaq really hated on
Penny. Man. He was on Drink Champs, man. They asked him to choose between Penny and Kyrie. He said Penny, man.
He says that now.
He said,
but
stop.
In the moment,
it was his ego. It was his ego, man. He was
but see, that's the crazy part, because when you look at it, all of the people that Shaq played with, I don't really count Wade, because Wade was just so much younger than Shaq. He didn't really feel like he was a threat, and Shaq was kind of past his prime. But Penny had less of an ego than young Kobe all together. You know what I mean? Like, Penny was very humble.
No, he's talking about his own ego. Shaq's
I know. But I'm just saying, like, Penny was always like, okay, my job is to get the ball to him.
Hey, man.
But yeah, I guess he didn't think that Penny was going to become this kind of star. But yeah, Penny was great, man. Incredible player. Man, congratulations on that Akon interview. If you guys ain't seen the interview, it's on According to Hip Hop's YouTube channel. Siobhan was able to sit down with Akon, man. It was a great interview, man. What are some of the things that stood out for you on the interview?
Well, like I was saying on the Weekend Rhyme, if you guys ain't tuned in, I said one of the biggest things that stood out to me was when I asked him what is his biggest accomplishment in music, and he said signing Lady Gaga. And that was interesting, but I understood, understood where he meant from what elevated him in a way. Like, if Lady Gaga made me all that money and it made me where I didn't have to make no music no more, I would say that would be my top 10 or top, if anything, biggest accomplishment. But for him, I guess I thought I was gonna get more of a question as him as an artist more so than him as the businessman. But that was on me. I should have specified. But I thought that was an interesting answer to that question.
It's funny, not to interrupt you, but I thought that I kind of thought he was either gonna say T-Pain or Gaga. I was like, okay, I wonder if his answer is gonna be T-Pain or Gaga, because Lady Gaga changed the game when she came in. I really think even from a lot of the what is it? What's the term I'm looking for? Not a gothic type of style, but like the pop, the way the darker pop stuff, right? Like I think it made Rihanna change some of the stuff that she was doing at the time. It made Beyonce change some of the stuff she was doing at the time. I think Nicki Minaj's whole rollout is very Lady Gaga-ish. At that time, a lot of people were adapting to what she was doing because she was just that influential. She changed things in that, 08, 09 era.
Yeah, I think like the thing about Lady Gaga that was big was the fact that she didn't fit the mold of what the cookie cutter bubblegum pop artist looks like. She wasn't the Britney Spears, the Christina Aguilera. She kind of had this whole other look to herself that wasn't like the pretty blonde girl you just put on other stuff and make this bubblegum pop records. Like she kind of had a different type of mold to her in the sense of that. But yeah, I was looking for an answer with Akon. With Akon is more so is like him as an artist. I think another thing that stood out was when I asked him his top 5 hip hop list. And this is always subjective to people. We could always look at it and whatever, since we want to look at it if it's not our top 5. I'm not going to argue somebody their top 5. And I would assume that this was current because he was naming current artists. Right. And I thought that was interesting that he had both Kendrick and Drake on there. Which is, it's not frowned upon. I mean, before the whole beef, nobody would have been saying anything wrong with that. But I guess because of the beef, people be like, how are you going to have both on there? But I think that was I thought that was interesting that he also mentioned Roddy Ricch. He did throw an honorable mention to Young Thug because his cadences and his melodies and stuff in records. So I could respect that as well. But I can't fault the man for what his top 5 is. My top 5 would be different if we talk about the current climate of hip hop right now. My current top 5 would probably have other people criticizing that as well. So I didn't have an issue with it. I think one of the most serious topics, because when some individuals in comments or even people narrative on Akon is sort of different from how I picked up in the interview, because I wanted to make it a thing to talk about tensions within Native Africans and American blacks over here. I want to get to that as more of something, because there's still tensions as far as how we view each other in different areas. Some places where melting pots, you get along more. In other places, it's still like some type of tension where one may feel like they're better than the other. And I just wanted to pinpoint on that and get that. And like me and him, we come to the same thing. It's just a matter of ignorance and education on one another,
Well, let's talk about that, because I did think that was a real interesting part of the interview. Now, I think what you're talking about as far as the tensions with Black Americans and African, I won't say African Americans, but African natives, if you will, is some of the things I've heard, because there's a whole lot of things going on, right? Yeah. I think that sometimes when we talk about hip hop origins, right, I think a lot of the times some people who created this culture, from Black American, I guess, lineages and origins, feel that it's offensive that Africans may continuously attach themselves onto things that might not be directly attached to something that Black Americans have created. Because we don't, Black Americans don't do the same thing when it comes to Afro beats. And I think that there is a level of tension when people say, that everything comes from Africa. And if we want to be technical, everything does come from Africa, right? Including every single person that's walking around here. Like the first living being on this earth comes from that continent. So that could apply to everyone. Now, where I want to go with this is the fact that somebody like a Burna Boy, right? Mm-hmm. Though, it's like he'll say that the African origins come from hip hop origins come from the continent, whether it be the drums, whatever. And then you have somebody like a Burna Boy, who all of his American hits come from, Black American hits, like Sitting on Top of the World or Tony Braxton's Wasn't Man Enough for Me. And I think there is a level to meet in the middle. And I don't know where this whole and I get it. Everybody's got to have pride. We have this whole thing when it comes to regions in hip hop. Atlanta sticks its chest out whenever New York talks. That's why people, always coming to Big Gip. And Big Gip's always, Atlanta first. New Yorkers do it with the West Coast. And I think that African artists they want to have pride in, their continent. It shouldn't even be a situation where people feel offended. Everybody's just repping their set, if you will. You know what I'm saying? And that's cool. And the collaboration, from what I got from Akon's interview, the collaboration is what takes all of those things to the next level.
Yeah, I feel like with the subject of this, and even when you break down your examples, all of it is Black music at the end of the day. That's how I view it.
Right.
You know where this originated. It's like individuals saying that like Jamaicans or Puerto Ricans didn't like contribute to hip hop when we know DJ Kool Herc is Jamaican. It's like we have to know.
But he was in Black American records. But I get you. But you're right.
We have
a collaboration though, still.
Yeah, we have to know where we originated to know where we're gonna go. And I think that's part of the thing is not having the back education on it, which leads to the ignorance. And that could be on both sides. The way that we're perceived over there may be different from how we perceive them over here. Of course, when we got the views of Africa, at least when I was young, we seen Africa to be depicted as flies on kids' faces and tribal stuff and all that thing. And we never seen the citywide look and of stuff like that. For some people, their first introduction to that is probably what they seen on the internet now that it's available, or Black Panther, where it gave you this, when we look at African movies, it's always like about villages and things like that. I remember my grandma, she used to have Shaka Zulu on all the time, bro. So it's like, I remember that. And so the images from what we look over there is possibly different if we're not exposed to it from somebody in our family that knows better, or somebody else who could teach us from what's over there. I feel like over there, the way we're perceived is something that they may adore, but then in a sense may look at some wrongs and associate that with what all Black Americans are. And right. I can't blame it, because if the only images that they see is what's on TV and entertainers or whatever, and not regular day people, they have a vision of how it is. Like if we're looking at, if they're over there right now and their only view of America is what we put on TV or whatever, and all they're seeing is Sexy Red and all this and Charleston White and all this, they're gonna think all of us is like that. Same like if over here, if all we're seeing is villages, whatever like that, that's all it's gonna be. So I think it does create ignorance that makes one feel like they may be better than one another or look down on one another. And the term African American is interesting because our origins and ancestry may date back to Africa, but I'm not a native to Africa. I was born in Florida, raised in the part of Seattle, raised in Jacksonville since I was 8 or 9. I never seen Africa a day in my life, but through the lineage, they can say African American. Some people rather just be called American.
Trick Daddy went out there recently and said something to that effect. And I used to feel like African American was kind of paying a level of homage to our ancestry because we don't know exactly which part of Africa we come from. But I can, as I've grown and thought about it more and looked into it more, I can see how that can be confusing. And I think the most accurate depiction, like you said, I don't. My connection to Africa is ancestral, and we could say that for pretty much everybody on this earth. So I think it would be a little bit more accurate and, more paying more homage to, my direct lineage by saying that, Black American, and that's okay. You know what I'm saying? And because, I can't pinpoint exactly, where from Africa that my origins go back.
And that's the bad thing. A lot of us can't. One thing we do know is Black people. We know there's somewhere that we came from. There's a lot of people that don't know where they came from, if you dig what I'm saying. And so at least we know where we start. What's our starting points?
Right.
To further my point on this too is like when we talk about the tensions, representation, education, and lack of ignorance is where we can get started on bettering those tensions. And it's sad because within our own people, even within Africa, they have their own civil stuff that's going on, even with us over here as Black Americans over here. Just like you talk about the light skin, dark skin thing, that's still a thing over there in Africa. It's a thing over here as American people. There's things placed within us that creates fighting within ourselves, but then we also have the things that separate us from who's not native here and whatnot. And, we have people that harbor stuff from how they were brought up too. Like we have people that their opinions based on us is due to a negative experience they faced when they was young. Like
That's
a kid that was African didn't bother nobody, probably being picked on because what he wears, his hair, how he smells, and being called African booty scratcher. From that point on, he may look at us like, you don't fool with us. Those are the origins for a villain story.
And I think too, I mean, again, that's where culture steps in, right? Because when it comes to, Black Americans, we all picked on each other. Like, you weren't the only ones that got picked on. We just joned back. And I think that, culturally, that was going, because kids are kids, but I think, but when you come from somewhere else and you're already feeling, insecure about fitting in and all of that, it can, be worse, right? And because you're right, a lot of people I've heard still harbor that, and it's like, gosh, man, we were kids then. You know what I'm saying? Like, now if you say that stuff as an adult, it's a little different. Lord with the super chat says the oldest archaeologist finds are in Americas. Do your research. Show me the source of that, because I've always thought that it was Africa, but hey, I don't know it all. Thumbs up in the chat, everybody. But yeah, I thought that was a real interesting conversation. Yeah, especially coming from Akon, somebody who I feel like, Afrobeats is doing this thing now, and it's all over the place. And it is in hip hop circles and hip hop categories and award shows and stages. I feel like Akon, maybe one of the first crossover successful African artists in hip hop / R&B that I can remember. I'm trying to think. I don't want to misspeak, but at least in this era. So to hear his perspective on it was really interesting. And the fact that he was always, heralded extremely high because he went back and he was able to provide, energy and, and power to areas that didn't have that power, and electricity, if you will. And so, yeah, I think he's the perfect person to, speak on some of these things. And I like that his take was more so, like you said, about, unifying and collaboration. I think where some people harbor their issues is just not giving certain cultures credit where credit's due. And I think that sometimes we play this tug of war with, now I created this, or this comes from this, and this comes from that, other than just giving everybody their individual props,
what I dig a lot, and these are a few more things I would have to say about while we're on the subject. A few things that I like to dig about the whole Afrobeats thing is I like to see those artists collabing with our American artists over here.
I do too.
I like the hip hop collabs. I like to hear Tim's on hip hop records. I like to see Burna Boy and what he does collaborating with American artists over here, because at the end of the day, they're still coming over here to make music over here. So it's still a place for them, and that they're championing the people that's over here to make music with them and vice versa. The next thing I want to pinpoint is for Akon to have that conversation and not make it a point of coming from a defensive place is also cool, because like we talked about social media in the comments. I'm pretty sure he sees shit. Just like we go and we check videos and we check the comments, I'm pretty sure he sees it. So I think that he sees it and he acknowledges it, and just to have that conversation on it is interesting, because as of recently, and I use this as an example, like we see what's going on with how people are placing Tyler and the controversy with how they perceive her and how she probably looks upon Black Americans or whatever. So I think it was just appropriate to have that conversation, because I do think there's a rift somehow, some Africans and some Black Americans, and then there's not. One thing that I do find is interesting is it's not like we ever veered away from African roots in some sense within the music, because even within the drums, a lot of people will like to forget the fact that early on in hip hop, Africa was being championed, the whole Public Enemy. Remember, people were wearing the African medallions, the fist with the African colors, these are things, the kente colors and stuff like that. It was a time period in hip hop where Africa stuff, that stuff was championed. Even if we look at listen to the Chronic album, they have something old on there that dates back to what was going on in Africa at that time, whatever, on the Chronic. So this wasn't hip hop. It never, like, really was something that was never too far away. We still champion it. I think we just got away from what our roots was in a sense. And that doesn't mean,
and there was a Pan-African movement in the early 90s, late 80s, like you said, Public Enemy, the Red, Black, and Green. You had Native Tongue doing what they were doing. You had, Dr. Dre said no medallions, dreadlocks, or black fists, but it was still a big, big part of the culture. And somewhere down the line, I don't know if this, maybe, I'm not trying to put it on two people, but I want to say that Tupac and Biggie, that kind of shifted things culturally. And I don't know what really phased out the African medallions. Maybe it was that line that Dr. Dre said on Let Me Ride, or maybe gangster rap. You know what?
well,
I think the quote unquote gangster rap probably did take out
I just think
African vibe.
I just think that when music became a business and came less of a point of education, and people are speaking from where they're from, if that's not in the beginning of, like, if that's not something they're speaking about within their environment, it didn't make it to the music.
You're right, and it wouldn't make it to the radio in that way. Because I'm gonna be honest, man, I don't think I ever, here in Atlanta, Georgia, trying to think, I don't think I ever heard KRS-One on the radio down here until, like, Step Into a World, and that's later KRS. But as far as like You Must Learn KRS and all that, I don't think I ever heard KRS on the radio down here. Lloyd with the super chat says Google Cocaine Mummy. Okay, I'm gonna Google that. He also says the Karuti Macedon site. Okay. Yes. We can have a whole conversation about this.
Yeah, we can go so far off on this, but I just want to say that, like, not all African people look like comes off as if they're better than us, and not all of us come off as being ignorant towards them. I can't say it don't exist because I can't say it don't exist because I don't see it. I can't say that because we know it exists for us to have this type of conversation that we had.
And if they feel like it exists, I mean, who am I to say it doesn't? You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Like, this is their life.
But what I would like to say is now we have so many resources to where nobody could be ignorant. So now at this point, if you're ignorant, it's willful ignorance, and so, and on both sides. So, I think we just have to get back to a place of knowing that we're all black, man. At the end of the day, you may not be American, you may not be that, but when you're in America, they all look at us the same, and that's how it's going to be said. I mean, like, I don't feel like I'm better than the next person or whatever, but we just have to get to a common place, and we all have to, because the tensions this is designed for a reason. That's what it is. This was cut and dry. Things are the way it is because that's what the powers that may be wanted to be done. So we just got to get away from the willful ignorance, man. I think it was a cool conversation. I hope that we can have further ones with them because there was a lot of other things I wanted to get into that I wasn't able to, but I dug the conversation with them, and I like to continue that relationship and talking about other things away from music as well sometimes.
For sure, man. Great interview, man. The people in here want to talk about Nas's King's Disease 3 turns 2 years old today. That was, I want to know what you guys' favorite song on that album was, because to me, KD3, man, that whole run that Nas and Hit-Boy had was really special. Number one, the first King's Disease was dope. And then the second one came, was like, okay, these guys came back really quick. This one's even better than the first. And then he came with Magic, which really threw me for a loop because I didn't even know he had that in him. And then when I heard KD3, and we were doing a station hit, myself and my former co-host, and we heard this album with the people for the first time at the same time. It was a great experience. I was talking about album releases. To me, this was the last time that I had that experience where it was like you went to the store and bought a CD, and then you put that joint in the car and play it with your homeboys and hear it for the first time all together. Nas did an incredible job on that album. Hit-Boy did an incredible job on that album. And I talk about people being able to fuse in all of the things that they learned from previous projects and put it all in one. To me, I think KD3 is the best album of that series, of both series. And it's possibly the best hip-hop album of the 2020s. It's definitely the most impressive in my mind. You're 50 years old, 30 years into your career, and you make a solo dolo effort that is at that level, and no rap features on it. The production is all over the place. He's adjusting to everything on there. In my personal opinion, I still like Reminisce. Reminisce is my favorite, and I think many people like Recession Proof and Thun was a big favorite because it was kind of connecting to what they're used to from Nas. But what I will give Nas on that one, man, and for the whole series, his versatility, his flow, and being able to adjust to different production, I think that he had to have worked on that. Those are some things that if he had Achilles heel at any point in his career, it was always that. The fact that, you know, his ability to sound as good on some different styles of production as he does on the stuff that we know that he sounds best on. And yeah, man, I think that whole Nas is a bad beat picker and that whole narrative, I think he really took that to heart, worked on that part of his game. And KD3 is, in my personal opinion, I'm going to say it's probably your number 3 or 4 Nas album all time. And to do that 30 years in your career is extremely impressive. Not a lot of people can say that, especially in hip hop. That just doesn't happen. So KD3 is a incredible time capsule. It's a very special album for me because it was a very special album for this platform. This according to hip hop as an outlet, and just the YouTube and engaging discourse that we've been able to have with people, man, being able to listen to music at the same time with the fans and with the, because we're all fans and with the following. It's a beautiful thing. Those are some things that I wish we could do more of, but we need artists to make music, man. And I will give Nas this, man. It's like, yo, this dude didn't have to make these 6 albums. And it's like, and I'm not talking about Jay-Z because I know people always bring up Jay, but just everybody who's ever done this hip hop thing, especially the people who are at their primes right now, like, give us music, man. That's what this whole thing is rotates around. Give us music, and I'll give Nas and Hit-Boy credit, man. They gave us music.
And I got a question, man, because when we talk about Nas, and I think I said this on a previous show, and I still believe it. Do you think that Nas beat picking has always been what's been against him, and we've seen his best work when he is paired with a producer that works well with him, or was it just the content that gave him that? What was it for him?
I think, all right, twofold. Illmatic, right? I think that Illmatic is the one time where all the stars align, and I think that when you're working with Pete Rock, who's coming off of he's making Main Ingredient at the time, and he's coming off of Mecca and the Soul Brother, and you got Premier coming off of Hard to Earn, you got Q-Tip coming off of Midnight Marauders, and you got Extra P who's coming off of Breaking Atoms. These producers are coming off of great albums, and these guys are producing your first album, right? And you have all of these rhymes, you have all this young energy, and you have these guys who are able to make some of the best songs, period, but make you the best songs. You're able to follow their direction. You're working with somebody like a Large Professor who's a vet, Q-Tip's a vet, Premier's a vet, Pete Rock's a vet, and you guys make a classic album together. Second time around, these guys are gone and you're left to your own devices. So anything after that, for some people who are used to hearing you on that, it's kind of a drop off, right? And then after that, it's like now you're almost producing yourself because now you're looking for beats per se. And it doesn't make you a bad beat picker. It's just you were working with the best. And there's really nowhere else to go from the best, you know what I mean? Until you find that synergy. And I think that it took him a while to actually find somebody, I think, all the way up into maybe Salaam Remi and whatever they were able to come together with, because Salaam Remi and him made you look. And, no disrespect to Salaam Remi. I think Salaam Remi's a great producer. He did wonders with Amy Winehouse, but I don't think that he's Q-Tip or anything like that in my mind. But he still needed to find somebody, right? And I think with Hit-Boy, that might have been the first time he really found somebody since Illmatic, to be honest. I mean, just a guy that he could just sit down and build with. And I think those two different generations made for an interesting match. And it was an honor when we interviewed Hit-Boy, and Hit-Boy said that, you know, he would listen to me and Coop's show and kind of, you know, be inspired and dig for what would work with Nas. You know what I'm saying? And when you have somebody who is of a different generation viewing it in a different way, I think that those things work. They kind of were challenging each other. But saying all that to say, yeah, I think that's just a lot of, it's kind of like LeBron, right? LeBron can't find a coach. Nobody could coach LeBron. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think the way that Nas started and the people, the incredible producers he was working with, it was hard for him to find that synergy, you know, moving forward, because not only do you have the pressure from the fans, but artistically, you got to find that real match. I wish him and Large Professor could have continued to grow together, and I don't know, you know, why that didn't happen, but that's probably label stuff.
So I got multiple views on Nas, and I could talk about Nas without even totally having to bring Jay-Z into the equation.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about Nas and me and how I always viewed Nas is like I said, we put Illmatic on the top. That's number one. That's, if not one of the best hip hop albums of all time. But I think now that we're looking back then, and, you know, you have some people say, oh, well, I remember back then on all, but I really think there's a little bit of revisionist history, because Illmatic sits up there, but as far as the impact, we have to remember, you know, we had Wu that came out. You just talked about Wu. We had Ready to Die that came out. And when we put all those three albums and what the culture was feeling, I think people would have probably put Nas on third outside of New York from the impact in hip hop, I would say. And hey, you guys could disagree with me, but when I talk about the impact of Wu and the impact of Big, I would like to say around that time frame, we could look at Illmatic and place it up there. Even up then, they were placing up there. But I think the way that those albums resonated to young people and from Nas's catalog since, I think the issue with him not only was the beat picking, sometime it was you start to see where artists question their content, and I think he got caught in that as well. And I also believe that Nas didn't really, I think the disconnect was him connecting with the younger generation, the younger crowd, you know, because when I was growing up, I didn't care. I didn't appreciate Nas until I became a little bit older. As we're young and we're outside of New York, dog, we wasn't checking for a Nas. I could say that Big stuff appealed to me. I could say that some of Wu stuff appealed to me. Jay's appealed to me. Some of these other New York artists, they kept it more to the culture of the young people, and Nas's music wasn't for that, you know. And so I think that's where the disconnect, where I say now we're older, we could look back at it and held Nas to be where it was, but we have to put ourselves in wherever age we were when this came back. Was that impact there like these other big artists that we name? And we have to say that, bro. And this is not this.
Well, I wanna go ahead.
This is like, I'm just trying to remember when we look back at hip hop history and we're talking about the impacts. Like I said, outside of Illmatic, bro, I don't know any other people that dropped around the same time as those later Nas albums where Nas impact went over that. I would
say it was that moment for him, but let me rewind. I think with Illmatic, right? You're right. Somebody like a Nas was wise beyond his years. He was 18, 19, which is, 17 on halftime. To think that somebody that young was rhyming to that level where, like you said, you could appreciate what this 17, 18, 19-year-old was rapping about 20 years later. Like, you're in your 30s, 40s, or whatever, and you're like, yo, this dude was on some other stuff. So yes, as a kid, you probably would, gravitate to more of the rah-rah stuff. Biggie, his substance wasn't really there. Now, I think the biggest difference, if we're talking about Illmatic in relation to Into the 36, Midnight Marauders, Doggy Style, Ready to Die, shit, even Southern Playalistic, was the hit singles. Illmatic didn't have that. You know what I'm saying? And Illmatic didn't have the Juicies on it, the Big Papas on it, the Cream on it. You know what I'm saying? It didn't have that. But what it did have is the fact that it was a great album collectively. And that's going to be a niche thing. And we always talk about record sales, and I've always said on this platform, hit songs is what sells records. I don't care what anybody says, like, yeah, the bootlegging and all that stuff was a thing for Illmatic, but the reason why Illmatic didn't do the numbers that Ready to Die did is because Ready to Die had these hit songs. And you had these songs that were going to be on radio all the time and on television all the time, and that's how records were sold. Now, fast forward to It Was Written, when Nas did kind of have to change it up, because guess what? Now I got to sell records. You know what I'm saying? Now I understand that, or as an artist, or the label understands that I need something on the radio. Boom, you got If I Ruled the World. And when he did these things, and when he did Street Dreams, I believe the impact, because that was really my introduction to Nas. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember seeing It Ain't Hard to Tell maybe late night on Yo MTV Raps. But again, I didn't hear much of the stuff on the radio, but when It Was Written came out, yeah, everybody had that. But again, it was driven by the singles, and that was driven by his impact, and that made you go back and listen to Illmatic. So I think that I see what you're saying, but it's almost like, you know, being ahead of your time, and people didn't really catch it. Wu was ahead of their time, but thankfully, like I said, Wu-Tang had Method Man. And I don't think if Wu-Tang had Method Man, I don't think their crossover would have been like that either. Even the Cream, you know, even the song Cream, incredible beat, incredible song. That hook is what does it. METHOD, man, that does it. You know what I'm saying? And I think that the star power of guys like Pac, guys like Method Man, guys like Biggie had bigger star power than Nas did at that moment. You know what I'm saying? Snoop. I mean, Nas had a lot to go, you know what I'm saying? He had a lot to go against on that level, but when it came down to just the rhyming and making music, he was top notch. But again, the game is way more than that. You know what I'm saying?
This is what, and you know, and when I say this, people think I'm shitting on Nas or I just dislike Nas. I can't dislike a man I have in my top 5, but I can be realistic, man.
You're being critical,
and that's you weren't young, you weren't old enough when this stuff dropped. Like, I didn't have uncles, like I didn't have father figures and people in hip hop in my family and friends of the family. I don't know nobody who wanted to be Nas. I don't know nobody who like came in there talking about Nas, bro, outside of New York. Like, the people who had the footprints, who are the names are mentioned, is the Bigs, the Tupacs, the, you know, like, there was times for all these people in the game, and I don't know anybody who was mentioning Nas. Now, I think Nas's music aged better because now we could appreciate what he's talking about, and it had some content in it. In today's music, it makes you appreciate that. But then nobody was really trying to hear that shit like that out of New York.
I don't know about that. Now, I don't know. Maybe I was a little different.
I think there's a select fan base, but I don't think. First of all, Nas was never a hip hop superstar. Into the world. No, we never seen Nas. He wasn't a hip hop superstar, bro. We never seen. He wasn't in commercials. The only movie was Belly. Like, not.
Again, he started Belly. Why? Because he was a hip hop superstar. He was in commercials. He had a Sprite commercial. He was in a Sprite commercial. He did the car canal ad. Nas was everywhere. No, I disagree with that. And then I was 14 in '96, and I remember everybody wanted the Nas, fade or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? The part, the chip tooth was a thing. Oh, Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says Nas and Killer Mike are better overall artists now than ever before. Black Thought is a better rapper now than ever before. Real MCs don't die. I will say that, man. Black Thought is super impressive.
You know, and this is not taking away how dope Nas is, but bro, I think people have the skewed vision on who are these guys that we held as the hip hop stars. Nas, we knew, was a dope lyricist. We knew he gave us a classic album, but he's never been a superstar artist like people today are trying to make him seem, bro.
I disagree with that because Pac tried to go at Nas. Big tried to go at Nas. Jay was talking about
are you gonna try to tell me?
No, Jay was like, who's the best MCs? Biggie, Jay, and Nas. Like, Nas was the guy. He was the golden child.
Best MCs. We're not talking about superstars, bro.
But I'm just
saying,
saying.
Talking about superstars. I'm looking at Tupac. To this day, there's not that too many people that's bigger than Pac ever. Big.
Okay, all right, all right.
These are names that when we mention. We can't say that Nas was ever looked at as being the forefront of hip hop. If we're talking about the King of New York, we don't. When has Nas held the King of New York the crown?
94. I think 94 was Nas's time to do it. Big got it maybe around 95. Huh? Yeah. Because Ready to Die. No. Illmatic was the one that got 5 mics. And Ready to Die did not. Nas had the ear of New York. Now, what Biggie did was with these remixes, Puffy's genius when it comes to that. Big was able to take 95 because of the remixes and because of those things. When both of those albums dropped, and Biggie had Juicy and he had Big Papa, Nas was the guy still. You know what I'm saying? But I will say this: when One More Chance remix dropped, things changed. 96, that's all pop. I mean, it is what it is. Lord with the super chat says Nas has been him since New York State of Mind world premiered on 92.3 to Beat in LA. Nas has always been the guy. And I believe that, all right, when 94, when he dropped, everybody was looking for this. Everybody was looking for this golden child. That's why he was able to have these incredible producers produce this album for him. I think it was a tandem between him, Wu-Tang, and Biggie that helped bring New York back while the West Coast was running what they were running. But even when Dr. Dre left Death Row, who did he go to first on the East Coast?
Yeah, he went and that album himself too.
No, he went to Nas. He did.
That album seen a lot of day for real, bro.
No, they made The Firm. That happened.
What happened to that album?
What
happened to that album?
I mean, it came out. The Firm was The Firm. I mean, Nas is the guy that everybody centers. Even Jay centered a lot of his early things around Nas. Nas was the mark.
We're getting it confused. This is not saying the respect for Nas wasn't there. This is not saying his MC skills wasn't there. This is not saying
I know you're not saying that. That's not even a question. But I think you're underestimating the star power of what Nas had.
No, I think
he would have been able to star in Belly if he wasn't a star.
Stars were. I think it's a skewed vision. Snoop was a star. You know,
Snoop
was a star.
I agree.
Star. Biggie was a star. Jay was a star. And even
I don't know. No. Time out. Let's rewind.
Bro,
Jay didn't become a star. No. Jay didn't become a star until like 98. Nas was a star in 96. Jay wasn't a star or he pulled out. Jay was not a star.
More of an influence on young hip hop fans more than Nas. Nobody wanted to be Nas, bro.
Nobody wanted to be Jay-Z in 96, though. More people wanted to be Nas in 96 than Jay. That's just the truth. It is what it is. Jay didn't become the guy that we're talking about really until 98. 97, he was dope, but it was still not really, honestly, what you're saying about Illmatic was actually true for Jay in 96 and 97. Nas was able to overcome that by 96, whereas Jay didn't overcome that until 98. Really, Foxy Brown was the draw on Ain't No Nigga. Not saying she had the best verse per se, but
if we put let's take Jay out of this. If we put Nas up to every one of those hip hop superstars around that time frame, be honest with me and tell me, do Nas trump it? Do Nas trump Biggie?
No. Star power. Let's just talk about straight up star power. No.
In the impact. Does he trump Biggie?
I don't know, man. Impact is a different conversation because his
impact and the star power never exceeded Biggie. It never exceeded. Let's think about the impact of Wu. You just gave a whole synopsis of the Wu. Did Nas at that time, was it bigger than Wu? The impact and all that of Wu?
Yeah, that's a tough sell because Wu's a collective.
That's what I'm saying. Let's think about.
I don't know, but it could be an argument made there.
Let's think about.
I think the biggest stars of that time, and I'll give you this. I think Snoop, Pac, LL Cool J, and I mean, like I said, we could say Wu / Method Man, right? Method Man star power was huge in 93. Biggie, I could see that too. But I think that Nas didn't have the persona that those guys had. But everything that he didn't have a persona, he had in skill set, and it was
but like I said, if we start talking about skill set as being a thing, then like I told you in previous episodes, we would have to start talking about your Black Thoughts or your Most Defs or any of those people.
They didn't make If I Ruled the World, though. So you know what I mean? And to Mad Max's super chat here, he said it was written with 3 times platinum. How is that not a superstar? Like, Most Defs never went 3 times platinum. Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says Belly is a bad movie, but it becomes a cultural classic because of the star power of X and Nas. Now, if you wanted to say out the gate, Nas didn't have the star power that DMX had, I'm okay with that.
Even with X.
DMX is a fucking...
and we would like to say that X had a bigger impact than Jay at the time of this stuff, if we want to keep it funky.
X was bigger than Jay.
When we talk about all these greats and we're talking about Nas and the star power and impact, bro, we can't act like Nas held that crown, dog. We can't do it. Like, after Illmatic, we can't do that. And even, like I said, we have to start revisiting Illmatic and what dropped around that and see what the noise was at the time. Yes, people were excited for Illmatic. Great hip-hop album. We put it up there as one of the best hip-hop albums of all time. Basically top 3, if anything. But and we can make an argument that is number 1. But if we're talking about anyone past that point and the other greats around that, dog, this is not something I'm pulling out of my ass. This is something that we could really go back and have archives of what this is. We're not talking about from the sense of lyrical ability and seeing stuff like that. He didn't have the impact like these other greats that we named, bro. He didn't.
Oh, follow me with this real fast. Can we at least give Nas credit for the fact that he was able to be as big and in the conversation with these guys with the content that he was giving? You know what I'm saying? Like, Nas was really, if we're being real here, he is kind of a conscious MC. You know what I'm saying? And he had that balance that not many people in his conscious world had outside of Tupac. But Nas, with the content that he was delivering and not coming with no aggressive, crazy, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to say speaking no bullshit, but you know what I mean? Like, he wasn't on no quote unquote gangster shit, but he was able to sit here and be in these conversations with these guys making records like The World Is Yours. You know what I'm saying? Life's a Bitch, New York State of Mind, like these type of records. And to even be in these conversations shows a lot to your skill set when you're not making records. And no disrespect, like Bring the Ruckus and Wu-Tang Clan, nothing to fuck with. There's certain things that hit chakras in a way. I love 3 6 Mafia, but it's like when you hear that aggressive content, NWA, it hits different than when you're sitting there listening to Most Def and Common. But the fact that he was able to be in these conversations with the content that he has speaks to the level of star power that he has and speaks to the level of, I mean, we already know the skills there, but you know, and, I mean, like you said, we listen to his stuff now after all these years, and it's like, wow, I appreciate this even more.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I could never talk about his lyrical ability and content or whatnot. We know it's there.
I think Biggie is probably, in my opinion, I think Biggie is probably the most, how do I say this? I think that stylistically, it's probably the most talented MC we've ever seen. The person that sounds great on everything, that can adjust to everything. I mean, even on Notorious Thugs, I think he hit us with about 6 or 7 different flows that we had never heard at that moment. But even with that being said, I don't think anybody could have made One More Chance in 95 when Biggie did. But I still don't think that Biggie could have made those records that Nas made. I don't think that Biggie could have made The World Is Yours.
That vice versa for a lot of artists.
Yeah. I'm just saying. I think that
just
they're very special in their own chambers. I think that when it comes to the conversational rhymes, I don't think anybody is more conversational than Jay. I don't. When it comes to having, I would give Nas this. His creative writing is on a whole nother page.
Yeah, his pen game is amazing. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, as far as like conceptually, right? Coming up with something like a Rewind or coming up with something like a Second Childhood and just where he takes things conceptually as a writer, I think that's where he's untouched. I think Scarface on the storytelling level, in my opinion, I think he's the best storytelling MC. But yeah, everybody has their individual domains. But yeah, Biggie was kind of like that. I'm just great at everything. But what Biggie didn't have was the content. Pac had the content though. But I think
we
the
also
Pac
have
didn't
to
have the
say
quote unquote lyricism that
we
some of
have
the
to
other
also
guys had.
understand the transition from Big and what he did versus we know Pac gave a lot of albums early on, and it doesn't sound like the Pac that the world knew and loved later on, but the thing about Big is he wasn't only he gave a lot of his best work to other artists too. I would like to say that too.
He's a feature king, in my opinion.
Just imagine if he kept all that stuff for self. So that's another conversation. But yes, if we look back at what aged better, that can be another conversation. But what we're talking about then at that time, and even with me as a kid, and I'm an advanced kid listening to hip hop, and I could tell you, or even older, bro, and I could tell you that I don't recall a time when nobody wanted to rhyme like Nas. There was niggas that was trying to rhyme. There was niggas that was trying to bite these other artists. I don't know anybody. There was a dude that lost his whole career off trying to sound like Jay. I don't know an impact when niggas was trying to walk around.
Who was that?
Nas, wanting to dress like Nas, there was nobody that impact wasn't there, bro. I'm telling you.
Niggas wanted to fade. Niggas wanted to dress like him. I will say this, as far as like even that whole notion of having multiple producers on one album, that comes from Nas. Like, they weren't doing that before Illmatic like that. Before that, one person's whole crew was producing the whole album. He was a trendsetter in many different ways. Oh, Mad Max in the super chat says Nas' first 10 projects went mostly gold or platinum. Yeah, I mean, quietly, very successful artist. I think where the lines get blurred and where it looks like something else is for all the contemporaries that he's mentioned in the conversation with, he doesn't have the quote unquote radio records that they have. I think that his biggest record is If I Ruled the World, radio wise, but I think that his strength is in, just like Jay-Z, in my opinion, his strength is in his B-sides. I think that what kind of hurts Nas in the eyes of certain people is when he did make those attempts at radio records, they didn't hit with the same veracity as, his more core records, like Nas is like, oh shit, made you look. I mean, listen, You Owe Me again is not and I'm not sitting here caping or making excuses or whatever. You Owe Me is not my favorite record, but it's not as bad as people make it seem. I think that
was the only way he got ripped for. Nas also, what was the song?
I think because of who made it.
K-I-S-S-I-N-G. Like, we wasn't ripping. And I was early Nas too, cuz like
didn't love that record. I think there's a lot of misses on I Am and Nostradamus, in my opinion. But I mean, we could have a whole countdown of Jay's worst records. I mean, it just happens. Like, Black Wealth and Power. Shout out to Black Wealth and Power. Good to see you on the show. Says this audience. This is an audience purist, lovers of culture. We have a skewed view of Nas. We appreciate him. Nas was forever pop culture like that. Was never pop culture like that. Excuse me. See, that's the thing. And when you talk about the style and nobody adopting to that style per se, Nas' style is a bit of a throwback to the 80s. Like, I think when a lot of the styles started to change in the early 90s when people were rhyming like Snoop or rhyming like Das Effects. Nas kind of put the reset button on the flows and styles and kind of brought it back to the syllables that Kane, Rakim, and Cool G Rap were doing, and took it to that next page. I remember Fat Joe saying, man, when he heard Illmatic, he had to throw all his rhymes away and start back over. Common said a similar thing, because even when you listen to Resurrection, when you listen to Can I Borrow a Dollar, Common is rapping drastically different on Can I Borrow a Dollar than he is on Resurrection. That's the Illmatic effect. Shit, if we're being honest, Jay-Z before Reasonable Doubt was rapping way different. That's the Illmatic effect.
That was the time. That wasn't an Illmatic effect. That's just a change with music. Nobody was rapping with the fast.
Who changed the music? Even Biggie. I love Biggie. You can hear the stuff that Biggie made on Uptown, and then the stuff that was being made in 94. People were changing up their flow, and Nas had a lot to do with that. Shit,
James
even if
Cole
you
even says
even if
don't
you listen
Illmatic.
to Wu-Tang, hold up. You said
Reasonable.
something about people not rapping like Nas. Listen to Wu-Tang. Listen to Raekwon on Into the 36 and listen to Raekwon on Only Built for Cuban Links. Those guys are rapping like Nas. Nas is on the album. He's an influence on there. DJ Bruce Almighty with the super chat says, question. When you mention storytelling, do you judge on how good the song is or how good the story is? I think Biggie is the most detailed ever. Huh. All right, let me read that question again. I'll ask you that question. I'll answer. It says, when you mention the storytelling, do you judge on how good the song is, how good the story is?
Both.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but which one weighs a little bit more in your mind?
I would say both, man, because we've seen different variation of storytelling. We could put Scarface up there as one of the best storytellers, but and we could say that the music was good, but I have to feel like overall, what was somebody on the outside who don't appreciate that could still appreciate the story. I think a lot of hip hop individuals could appreciate a Slick Rick storytelling because it was a bop, you know, and stuff like that. So I think it doesn't take away from how good a song is. I just think how people perceive it is always off how it's a bop or whatnot. And I think that changed over time. I don't think that was always the case. But I think it has to be a nature of both. Because when I listen to Biggie, a story to tell, not only is it a bop to me, but it's like, yo, it's entertaining. It's like there's something that goes into it that people appreciate, you know. When talking about storytelling, I think it does have to have a nature of both. And I don't think that was always the case at first, but throughout time as hip hop evolving, I think you have to have a good story and a good song to complement how good the story is.
You know, I'm consistent with this. I'm always going to be song first. You know what I'm saying? And I think that, yes, how good the story is matters, but how good the song is, I think trumps even that. Like when you look at, like you said, Slick Rick, the art, not art of storytelling. Shit, you know what I'm talking about? A children's story.
A children's story, yeah.
A children's story is such an incredible song. Yes, the story is great too, but the song is so powerful, and so it makes you listen to the story. You could be telling a great story, and if the song ain't entertaining like that, no one hears the story, right? So I do think that it is important. I would have to say between the two, it may be a 60-40 thing, but I'm going 60 song, 40 how good the story is.
Yeah, because we have some great storytellers. You could put Nas, Scarface, Ice Cube.
Oh yeah, Ice Cube's
yeah,
great.
Ice Cube, Slick Rick. You know, we have a lot of people that are amongst good storytellers. And sometimes they didn't have bops. Sometimes it was just that dope of story. I mean, hell, Brenda's Got a Baby by Pac is not a great story, but it's a story that needed to be had because it narrated.
What do you mean it's not a great story? It's not a
it's not a bop as far as like it's no. What I'm saying, it's a story about a bad situation.
Okay, I got you.
It's not
it's a bad story. I got you.
Yeah, it's like a bad story, bro. That's not something that is like it's like depressing when you hear, but it's a reality. And so when I say like you have to have a good song and a good story, sometimes it's not all about it being bops either. It just has to be something that resonate and people can relate to, and or even if you can't relate, it puts you in a place where you can close your eyes and envision what they're talking about happening. I think all of that makes up a good thing for storytelling in hip hop.
I think all right. Let's look at Scarface. Mad Max to the super chat says Nas was never a pop star. I got it. Yeah, Nas was never a pop star. He's like Tim Duncan. I've never seen Nas compared to Tim Duncan, but I get what you're saying. We were talking about Scarface and his storytelling. Mind Playing Tricks on Me. Just an incredible song. You have to hear the story on there because the song is so incredible. Now, is that a better storytelling exhibition than A Minute to Pray, A Second to Die? Maybe not. But the fact that the song is so good, I feel like it does trump the individual story. But you need both. But with that being said, I think that if we're being honest here, now I would say Scarface is my favorite storyteller. And I think that in a vacuum, he conveys stories the best. But if we look at how many stories and the variety of stories that Nas has in his catalog, the details of stories in his catalog, I have to say he's the greatest storyteller in hip because nobody has a catalog of storytelling songs to the massive amounts is Nas. And I think, even in a vacuum, he's a top 5 storyteller. I mean, I think that in a vacuum, I would go Face, Scarface, that is, Ghostface, Nas, Slick Rick, Biggie. But when you look at the totality and the amount of stories, the different creative stories, and again, that goes back to his creative writing, I got to give Nas that nod.
I don't know. I mean, it's not something that I'm going to go on the hill and die on. I think Nas is definitely up there, but I'm just trying to think about all the big storytellers. I think is that's one of those things that's subjective because that conversation just came about as well. So I don't know. I
mean, the man told the story backwards. I mean, It is what it is, man. Like, I mean, it's, and the fact that he could sit there, write that, execute that, and conceptually come up with that. And y'all might be surprised by this too. I think that Eminem's one of the great storytellers.
I think Pac too, man. I think Pac
is too. Yeah, for sure. I think Pac's a very underrated storyteller. We got another super chat here. The Raising Head super chat says Ray, J, Ghost, and Big were all influenced by Nas. Listen to Party and Bullshit, Biggie. We don't get life after death without it was written. It's true. I agree with that. Even if we talk, and speaking of storytelling, let's look at Ready to Die. His storytelling on there is
from
limited.
The beginning.
His storytelling on there is Give Me the Loot. What else? Warning and Give Me the Loot.
No, not true.
What else is Me and My Bitch?
That, and then you also have the story. What was the joint? Talking about the joint when it's like he shot himself at the end of the story.
Oh yeah. Okay, I got you.
It's not really on my mind right now.
Yeah, Suicidal Thoughts is there. I give you that. Suicidal Thoughts.
And then you had Everyday Struggle. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't feel like that was a storytelling song. And that's my favorite song on Ready to Die.
And then we also had let me see.
It's introspective for Biggie. But I do think that it was written. You could hear the effect of the stories on It Was Written, where Nas does I Gave You Power. He does stuff like shootouts. And I think that you could really see a direct correlation of where Biggie stepped his storytelling game up on Life After Death. And I do think that is a direct reflection of what Nas was doing. But again, we could also say Dr. Knockboot is Nas's version of 10 Crack Commandments too. So I mean, they all kind of bounced off each other.
I think the thing about Biggie is we didn't see what his career was going to transpire to after that. He passed before his second album dropped. I mean, but from the beginning he had stories. I think Etz even had some stories, not a lot of them, but Etz had some stories as well.
Oh no, Etz is a great story.
And a bunch of other joints. I think that stuff is subjective. I don't think just because how many, if you have like a majority of more stories than another person, I make you better. Like, I want to say what was the just overall best songs of storytelling.
Well, I do think that I Gave You Power. I think Shootouts. I think that again, Rewind. I think that One Love to a certain degree. I think that Blaze of 50. These are tough storytelling songs for anybody to beat. You know what I'm saying? That's just off the top of my head. DJ Bruce Almighty with the super chat says, Big's Warning or Good Day by Q. Good Day.
I'm biased on that because Warning is my favorite Biggie song. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. But
again, the power of the song. And I think that Good Day is just a much more powerful record. And again, I'm 60-40 song, 40 story. You know what I'm saying? So
I even agree with that. Yeah, I think it doesn't need to be a bop, but it has to be a song that I can just digest too. It has to be like I could listen to stories all day, but it still has to it has to be a good song.
Everybody knows what happened in Good Day. Like if I ask you, who beat the Supersonics, or who was it, who played that day? you know the whole story, and that means something, right? Like
that was actually a great question. Like big,
yeah, like who
man.
did he get a beat from? We all know. Like when he saw the lights on the Goodyear blunt, what did it say? Like everybody knows that whole story.
Because there's some great stories of people that wasn't even in a bag to give us dope stories, man. There's some individuals that give us stories like later on in their career, early on in their career, that was dope. I mean, I think Common has a dope story, you know, with Testify. I think Obi Trice has a good joint on the setup, you know, with Nate Dogg on the hook. I think you know, there's so many dope artists that did some stories, but it wasn't really their bag to, you know, that was their thing. But there's so many dope stories in hip hop, man.
I think Common's story is I used to love her for sure. It's funny, man. I was just listening to B the other day, well, not the other day, yesterday, actually, from beginning to end. What an incredible piece of work. I think it's Kanye West's best production job. I mean, it's more than just beats, right? Like when you think about where Common was in his career at that point, and where he took his career after that point, and it was in the middle of his career. Like he wasn't a new artist per se; he was in his 30s. You know what I mean? And they actually made a grown-up hip hop album that fit that actual individual, that still had a level of hunger to it, a level of edge to it, a level of consciousness to it, and a level of balance. I think that's one of the most incredible things that Kanye's did in his career. And I'm sure that the city of Chicago is always going to have a soft spot for Kanye because of what he was able to do on that project and as a producer. And even the Dilla records that were left over, I mean, it was perfect. They all fit together so perfectly.
Do you think Kanye get enough credit for his album run from how we look at him now and perceive him?
I mean, look, it's a catch-22, right? I think it's like when you're such a big star, you don't get as much credit for for the artistic side of it, right? You know, a lot of the times the people who weren't as, you know, successful from a mainstream standpoint get a lot more critical acclaim, if you will, than the people who were crossover. You know, I sit back and listen to Billie Jean as a record, and I try to take all of the hoopla and everything out of it, take the moonwalk out of it, take the Motown 25 out of it. This is an incredible song, lyrically, production wise, execution wise, like standalone, like without Michael Jackson being Michael Jackson and who he is. This is a great record, and I don't think that it's hard for people to take all those things out when you have an explosive personality like a Kanye West and everything that he's said and everything that he's done, everything that he's been a part of, to just take all of that out and just listen to the music and focus on the music for what it is. It's hard for people to do. But in those terms, yeah, I don't think
Kanye came out. Kanye came out as a big personality. It's just he stands on. You know, I think that was the difference. It's like
I don't think he ever changed.
We loved him for everything we criticize him for now because it's not going to the interest of us. You know, but Kanye's always been that loud voice, but man, his album run, man, is one of the best in hip hop history, bro.
Period.
And that's not just me saying that because he's like one of the newer artists of the generation compared to some of the past GOATs, but I feel like he had one of the best album runs in hip hop history.
He did it better, did it different, did it nice, did the incredible, then did it twice.
It was an evolution not only in like the subject matter, but an evolution into the sound of music. He created waves with his production. You know, it went from sample game to now, you know, he's giving us new sounds. The 808s and Heartbreak sound is something that later on was adopted in the future. But like originally 808s and Heartbreaks was something when it came out, people was like, the fuck is this?
Doing? Yeah, exactly.
You know? But I think the world, like Kanye was making great albums, but I think the world woke up when they seen, oh, he beat 50. You know?
Oh yeah. Graduation was a game-changing moment, and
that alone changed the scope of hip hop as well, the direction of it.
Yeah, it did. It changed the trajectory moving forward. I think, and I've said this before, and Kanye doesn't get enough credit for this specifically. That individual release date, which I think Jay-Z mastermind behind the scenes, that changed what a superstar could look like and sound like in hip hop. And I'm glad we're having this full circle moment, because you know what? That does bring it back to what you said about Nas. At that time, you had to have a level of street credibility to be a superstar in hip hop. You had to have, you know what I'm saying, these records for the streets. And this guy was everything but that. But he was going against the Goliath of sales at the time, the guy who represented everything of what a mainstream rapper was supposed to look and sound like, and he beat him. And when he beat him, that's why we got the Coles. That's why we got the Kendricks. And these guys are able, and Drake too, these guys are able to be mainstream guys by being themselves. They don't have to act like they're, you know what I'm saying, have a rough past or come from the hood. Shit, you can even use your own name. You can be Jermaine Cole. You could be Drake. You could be Kendrick Lamar. You ain't got to be MC.
Remember, when you think about artists that always use their real name, they had to be dope.
Yeah, but again, your name's on this. Yeah, your name's on this. And some people would say, yeah, Tupac did it, but Tupac still had to phonetically spell it like a rap name. Kanye West came to the table like, nigga, I'm Kanye West. That's my name. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have no rap name, quote unquote. Yeah, and that's the impact.
You know, and he's a part of the Grammy family, man. We got to get into the Grammys, bro.
We do. Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, GFK, Ghostface, Shaky Dog, best action movie scene on wax. I love Ghostface's stories. Most entertaining storyteller ever. The Grammys just released their nominees, and there are no rap albums in the album of the year category, but I'm not surprised at that, right?
Are we mad at that?
There really wasn't a big mainstream album to drop. And again, Kendrick didn't drop an album. So, you know, anything that he dropped, of course, they would give him that nod. But Andre 3000 for the Flute album, what you guys call it, Flute album,
man.
He got nominated for Album of the Year at the Grammys. And how do you feel about that?
I feel like these criteria is like, you're going to put somebody in best album. It's an album that's a flute album. It's no word. So I just want to wonder how, like, it makes me wonder, how do you guys pick the criteria for when you guys are doing this now?
He got nominated because he's Andre 3000.
Well, I could see if best album, I can see how best album you may have like a pop record or hip hop record, something that's not in the genre that we probably will favor. But when you throw Andre in there for the flute album, now it makes me wonder, what is the criteria for what's considered a great the best album now? You know, because that, to me, it doesn't fit in that category for that.
No, I mean, like you said, impact. Like, where's the impact? What are the records that we could say impacted the year? If we're looking at this as a musical album, is it even the best or one of the best albums in its genre? I mean,
because you have a criteria, you have a genre, you could throw that in for a nom. But
exactly.
Like, I don't understand that.
Again, you know, we also have to understand that, unfortunately, this is television, and this is people need ratings, right? And people want ratings. So certain folks are going to get they're going to get preferential treatment because they could possibly get this show ratings. People want to see Andre possibly be at the Grammys, and maybe he wouldn't come to the Grammys unless there was a nomination in the biggest category, or maybe they feel like if they do that, it will coerce him to come to their show. I don't know.
I hate how I have to talk about Dre in this sense, because it takes away, I think it takes away from somebody who's viewing this, my respect for Dre, because I love Dre. I like Stacks. But it's like, when we talk about this type of stuff and how it's measured, man, we can't be mad at him. I'm mad at the Grammys, but it's just like, this is them getting it wrong again. And then not only are you getting it wrong again, there's people that deserve to be Grammy nominated or should at least have been in the conversation that didn't. Let's talk about how Nicki, for once again, doesn't get a Grammy nod. Why? So you're meaning to tell me that a Flute album from Andre 3000 should be in there for best rap album, but
no, it was the album of the year.
Album of the year, but
yeah.
You know, fair enough. Nicki doesn't get no nods for nothing.
Well,
like she hasn't consistently dropped music since 2023.
It seems like favoritism at that point. I mean, this is what I will say. You know, I know people felt the way about, because I think Beyonce got like 11 nominations or something like that.
They shit on Nicki, man.
For a country album. People feel a way about the fact that the CMAs didn't nominate, you know, Beyonce for her country album. But I get it. What they're doing, and whether people believe that she should have been nominated or not, they're gatekeeping, right? They're making sure, like, okay, yeah, you made this as a one-off. Are you really a country artist? Or do you deserve preferential treatment over other country artists who dedicate their lives and their careers to this genre? I think here we see Andre jumping in here doing a one-off situation, which is great creatively and all of that, but that does somewhat take away from the people who make music in this genre their whole life. Like, this is their thing. This is what they do. And like you said, we don't know if somebody put together some of the best works of their career or just around, because it's getting clouded by star power over here. This is like when rappers or entertainers in general, I don't want to just put it on rappers, would actually go out there and get a starring role in a film or a television show and have to be carried by real seasoned actors and actresses on screen. That's exactly what this is. You're sitting here doing a one-off thing, but you get propelled over people who do this all the time. It's like when J. Cole went down there to Zimbabwe or whatever and played a couple of games of basketball. You know what I mean? And you taking jobs from guys who really do this.
But I don't think that award shows is weight like that. It's always about the year of what is based on your work that came off previous, whatever, right? So you could have a dope album in another genre, and we can't look at it like, oh, well, they haven't been there, they don't deserve it. Well, Beyonce still broke records in your genre. You know what I'm saying? So
did she break records because of the album or because she's Beyonce?
It doesn't matter.
It does matter, because it matters when it's good. No, I don't want to sit here and be a hypocrite, because it mattered when Justin Bieber wanted his stuff to be considered R&B. But we know what that would have meant if Justin Bieber ends up in an R&B category.
If he would have lost, he would have lost.
You're going to take away from people who actually make R&B music because you're a pop star.
You know, and it's funny that a lot of people that would like to criticize that Beyonce album are people that didn't listen to it.
It's cool.
You know what I'm saying? I've listened to it fully, and to say that album doesn't deserve to at least have a nomination in the CMAs is bullshit.
I haven't heard enough of the country albums that are out there to really make a real assessment. So I mean, but I feel you. I mean, it's good, but I haven't heard all of the stuff that's been nominated or things that were considered to even make that assessment.
Yeah, we can't, you know, and this is what we don't want done to our artists. And so we can't do it to other ones either. I even congratulated Akon on this and bigged up how they are able to jump around to other genres. If you jump around to other genres and ignite something and you're dope on that project or whatever, give them the credit for what that is. If you feel some type of way because, oh, she hasn't been in this, she hasn't been in this X amount of time to get rewarded. No, because we have white artists that come over here in our genres and win our awards too. You know what I'm saying? So we can't do that, bro. Like, we really can't. Let's not act like Macklemore didn't win Best Hip Hop Album over the individuals he wanted.
That shouldn't have happened.
You know what I'm saying? So, and that wasn't even that, and that's the difference between him and Beyonce. Beyonce actually made a dope album. Was Macklemore's album considered in that genre to be dope? If you're in that genre and you make a dope album, we'll give you that respect. But was that album doper than those ones that was in that category?
Well, all right, and that obviously is subjective, but I will say this. I respect country music enough to say, and I like country music, but I'm not a country music head enough to say that if Beyonce made one of the best country albums of last year or not. Now, I can say this as a hip-hop head. I know that Macklemore's album was not Good Kid, Mad City, but people who don't know that and they just know Macklemore because he's what they're exposed to may feel differently based on their limited knowledge. So I don't want to do the same thing on the other end. You know what I mean?
So when you talk about the CMAs, okay, you don't want to give her love CMAs. Well, look, the Grammys got her there.
Well, of course they were going to do it, but see, the TMAs are cool with that though, because we're still gatekeeping country music. Go over there and win those awards over there, but here, you know, we need a little bit more evidence that you really gonna do this thing.
And
you know what I'm saying?
And just to stop on the Beyonce stuff here, for my last point, I also feel that away from the country, every time Beyonce drops, she pushes the envelope. It's crazier because it's Beyonce and we know it comes with the name, but her musical pieces pushes the envelope. Let's not act like Renaissance wasn't a rhythmic dance impact. That tour alone, that impact, you know, every time she drops, it's like she shuts the world down, bro. Like
she's superstar. I mean, she's supposed to.
But it pushes, but she gives me what I would want out of an artist, like being creative, not taking those risks and pushing the envelope. A lot of artists stay stuck and they just deliver to their base over and over, same song. Beyonce pushes the envelope every time she drops. I can't hate against that. We can't talk about the name, all that, whatever. She pushes the envelope and take risks that a lot of artists can't and won't. You know, so I think that's very telling. When we talk about the Grammys, right, and we talk about snubs, I can't help but notice there's other snubs in here. We have Nicki that didn't get nominated, but we also had another artist that was the highest selling female artist in hip hop before Glow Drop, and that's Meg Thee Stallion, and she didn't get nominated either for a Grammy.
Well, the BET Awards, Hip Hop Awards, they nominated her 12 times and she got 0.
I just don't think, you know, because I don't know if Glow's Glow's album makes a submission for this. I don't know how that works. But if you have the highest selling female rap artist not getting nominated in anything that's relative to that category, that's interesting.
I do think that I think Glow might have been a little bit after the cutoff. How many nominations here it is. Kendrick Lamar has 7 Grammy nominations this year. Well, actually, you know what? Let me start here. He has overtaken Drake as the 3rd most nominated rapper in Grammy history. He has 57 nominations. Drake has 55. Kendrick has won 17 out of his 57. Well, we'll see what he does in this upcoming show. But so far, Drake has 5 out of 55. That is wild. Okay, so Kendrick Lamar is nominated for 7 Grammys this year. Not Like Us has 5 nominations. Song of the Year, Best Rap Song, Record of the Year, Best Rap Performance, Best Music Video. Like That, Best Rap Performance, Best Rap Song. 7 nominations for Kendrick Lamar. Is what Drake said true on Family Matters? Kendrick just opened his mouth. Somebody hand him a Grammy, right?
We can stop that narrative, dog. Not Like Us was the biggest hip hop song of the. Come on, because it's bullshit. Like, we're not gonna sit here and act like Not Like Us wasn't the biggest rap song. From that point on to whatever, nobody made a song bigger than Not Like Us this year. In all of hip hop, everybody had a chance. Nobody didn't.
It's Not Like Us really like that.
We can't act like it's not.
It's a big song. It's probably the biggest song of the year, but is it really like that? Is that a record that we really gonna be listening to from here on out, you think? I'm just asking.
When we do that. I hate when we do that to Kendrick, when we don't do that about other people that had they're great moments. You know, I didn't do that with Drake back-to-back record. But even then,
back-to-back wasn't as big as this record.
That was my next point. But even when he wrote off that, he kept on making music. That was that. I think the only knock was he didn't rush to do music to follow up like Nas did. I mean, not Nas. I'm sorry. I'm still in that whatever. He didn't do the music like Drake did. You know, we know he's cooking up an album is coming, but Not Like Us, bro. It's the biggest song of the year. It deserves whatever Nas is gonna get. And even if it wasn't Kendrick, if it was anybody else that had a song that had this impact and stayed on the charts and played as much as it did and was this big, they should get the nod as well.
It's a great record. All jokes aside, I'm not hating on Kendrick at all. I do think that an artist like Kendrick for the industry is one of those, especially for hip hop, and it could be a good thing for hip hop, right? He's one of those guys that checks all the boxes, right? Like his affiliation with Dre, Jimmy Iovine, his level of awareness, intellect, mixed in with the technical aspect of what he does on the track, and he's I don't want to say he's safe, but he's a professional about his, right? So why wouldn't he, get these level of invites and, get this level of adoration from the biggest stage of, the music industry and the music industry peers? I mean, he checks all boxes. And like you said, this record is super big. The way that these categories happen, though, I think like that kind of overlaps with Not Like Us, so it's not like he's going to be able to win all 7. Yeah, because Like That is in the same category as Not Like Us twice.
I think
so the most
clean up. I think he'll probably because, and I think he'll probably clean up in anything relative to that record because you can't put no other hip hop record this year above that.
Yeah. Clean up for him is 5, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it could happen. I mean, best music video, he may not win that one, but as far as all the rap categories, record of the year, I don't know if he's going to win that one. Song of the, I don't know. Out of this, I do see him winning 2 in a possible.
Yeah,
that possible is song of the year, and that's a strong possibility.
You know what? Another thing I'm surprised to see on the good part, I see that they nominated Chris Brown for like nine Grammys.
That's awesome.
I thought that was a good look too, because we often see how people hold Chris Brown, like the industry kind of holds Chris Brown in that lane of being a black sheep still, and they use the stuff Rihanna and all that stuff against him still. When he if there's not anybody who made their redemption of music as well as Chris, it's come on, man. Like I don't know how people perceive the full albums because he makes albums very long now, but just to consistently give us the music and the touring and the singles and to keep on going after something like that, man, I think he has a good run and redemption. So I think he needs to be considered in the likes of that stuff, and people got to stop doing that to him. So I'm happy to see that he gets those Grammy nods for real.
Chris is one of those guys, man, that the fans kept him around, and the industry can't fight it anymore. The industry tried to get Chris out the way, but the fans said no. You know what I'm saying? And the fans continue to rock with Chris. And at this point, they're like, well, shit, we got to give the people what they want. They probably still don't want to give Chris the props that he deserves or the stage that he deserves, but they're forced to do so because at the end of the day, the people are right. Like you said, the customer is always right. And so when we're talking about viewership, we're talking about the people who go to these concerts, these shows, who listening to the music, they're still rocking with Chris. And whether these people in the offices do or not, you can't. It's nothing you can do about it. Chris is not going to go away because his fan base ain't going away. Because his talent's not going away. They know what the fans know what Chris gives them on stage and on wax.
Great performer, great bodies of work, and I honestly think he's one of the last real consistent R&B artists. If we talk about R&B and the state of R&B, I feel like Chris Brown is the most consistent R&B artist of this generation.
He's one of the last superstars that we had, superstar talent. And we've had a lot of superstars and people have had hot moments and all of that, but Chris Brown's easily the best dancer of his generation. I don't think we've seen anybody surpass Chris Brown at this point since Chris Brown started.
You want to know another thing that I find interesting, and people could run with whatever they want to off this, because I know the opinions is going to be shaky on this. With the impact and the type of year she had, is it crazy to say she should have got a Grammy nod and that's Sexy Red? Should she have got a Grammy nod?
Look, this is the thing when it comes to the Grammys. To me, I think there's a level of quote unquote prestige that this award show has. And I think that there is some elitism when it comes to the Grammys. That's why Snoop never was really awarded like that. 50 Cent too, you know, unless it was attached to Eminem or something. It's like, so I think that a award show in an institution like a Grammys feels like they're too good for Sexy Red. And whether you think that Sexy Red is garbage or not, the year that she's had is undeniable. They tried to start rumors that her tour got canceled because of low sales, but it didn't. Again, another person that has the fans behind them. Now, do you want Sexy Red performing on your Grammy stage based on who's watching? Probably not. But again, all those things factor into who gets nominated as well. I know I got a different vantage point of the Grammys when I attended the red carpets last year, and it was virtually. And it's a whole nother thing that we don't see on television. This is a celebration of all of music. We're talking about theater. It's really the arts. That's really a bulk of the awards that go out. I think it's like 97 something awards that go out all together, and it's only about, 15 or so that's televised. So what we see on television is basically the marketing for what the institution really is about. And really from what I saw, it was a celebration of musicians, musicianships, vocalists, instrumentalists, and things of that nature. The stuff we see on television is straight up entertainment. So I could see an institution like that saying, nah, we can go without having Sexy Red even a part of this show.
Well, and the reason why I have to bring that up is because we can talk about as much music as trash, what we don't like, what we don't like. The people says what they like out here. And when I'm looking at nominees for somebody like Cardi being nominated for a Grammy, who hasn't released an album in 7 years, when I look at people like Lotto that's nominated for a Grammy, and she didn't even outsell some of these other artists like a Meg or a Nicki or even what we would say, there was another artist that was in that conversation, a Glow. When she dropped, she doesn't have the record sales or the impacted records like some of these other female artists, but Lotto got nominated. I feel like that's telling. You nominated, when we look at best rap performance, Cardi, Enough. Glorilla, she deserves to be in there. Yeah.
You said Cardi B?
Cardi B, Enough, Miami.
I gotta go on my Cardi B.
That's rap performance.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. Best melodic rap performance, Lotto, Big Mama. And it makes me wonder if you're gonna go off records based off internet impact, like Big Mama was a big TikTok song, but I don't hear that ring off on the radio the same way as Sexy Red or Meg or some of those other artists as in female rap ring off, and she got the nod. So we can't help but believe there is some politics that has to go into this shit, because if we look at impactful female artists, it was Sexy Red's year, it was Glorilla's year, and Meg had a solid year. And only one of them is nominated. When I even look at let me see.
Well, based on the Grammys and their precedent, I believe it's about the quality of music. And at that point it's subjective, right? And you can't really quantify it because it's not about record sales, not about streams, not about any of that. So basically, the committee and the people who make their votes or who give their votes that are qualifiable for votes in the music industry, they make these decisions. And
okay.
Certain people, I won't say it's a popularity contest, but certain people are going to get the nod and certain people aren't. And Otto's going to get that nod for whatever reason.
Why didn't, let's say, and this is another person that didn't get it. Shit. Why is my memory going to shit right now?
It happens a lot.
Hey man, weed brain, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
It's the truth, bro. But
I did want to say something about Cardi. I really do, man.
And there's Doja Cat. Doja Cat didn't get nominated either.
Well, I remember last year, was that the Grammys? I think it was the Grammys. Doja Cat was sitting in the audience, kind of looking weird when certain people were winning awards over her that I feel like she should have won. But I think that Doja Cat's one of the most talented artists in the game, period. I think one of the best, if not the best, pure hit maker that pop culture actually has right now. And she may not have, do you know if she submitted her stuff? Because after her face last year, she might have just said, fuck it. I know Drake doesn't submit his stuff to the Grammys anymore either.
And just before we get into Nicki, there's one more thing I want to there's two things that's interesting about this. At the Grammys, they nominated Cowboy Carter to be a best country album.
So
the CMAs didn't, but the Grammys didn't. That's one thing. And best rap album, we have to talk about that category before we get off the subject. So best rap album, they have J. Cole, Might Delete Later, The Auditorium by Common and Pete Rock. You have Doechii, Alligator Bites, Eminem, The Death of Slim Shady, and we have We Don't Trust You by Future and Metro Boomin. I'm not gonna lie, I think they're gonna give it to M. But
I mean, based on their history, they've given Eminem best rap album every single year that he dropped, leading all the way up to maybe like 06 or whatever. So Slim Shady LP, that got best rap album at the Grammys. Marshall Mathers LP did, the Eminem Show did, I want to say Encore did as well. So, I mean, based on their record, he probably will win it. I think the album that should win. I think the album I think is the best is the Pete and Common. I don't know if they're gonna win though.
I mean, Might Delete Later, aside from the drama, Might Delete Later was a solid project from Cole. I just don't think it was that.
I don't think it should be nominated for a Grammy. I think Doechii is gonna win, to be honest. But you know what? Based on the cat, you might be right, man. I think that the Death of Slim Shady could win. I mean, listen, man, you want to talk about no impact. Eminem's Death of Slim Shady had zero impact. Shit, even if we look at the election, man, like Barack Obama himself brought Eminem out in the city of Detroit, and they still couldn't win the state of Michigan, man. Like, it's Eminem's impact is nowhere near what it once was or what people think it is. But this album in itself, like, it was here for a day and it was gone the next. Like,
there's people that love that album.
I can't even tell you what records are on this album. Like,
there's people that love, and for me who would listen to the whole album, it's not bad. It's just like, knowing, growing up and maturing with how our ears are for music is just like, I get it. You're putting a depth to the character and everything. So the album wasn't bad. It's just like, for me, I have my opinions on the content from M and how it grows today, and it's just interesting, man.
I mean, listen, man. Let's be 100 here. This man's still dissing Christopher Reeves on this album, Slim Shady is, right? I was sitting there looking at, I forgot what I was watching. It was something on daytime television, but they were talking to Christopher Reeves' family, and being paralyzed has to be one of the worst things ever, right? And they were just talking about, his legacy and those things and yada, yada. Long story short, it is egregious, joking or whatever. And there should be no jokes on this level. People sat here and allowed this man to continuously diss Christopher Reeves for being fucking paralyzed. Like, it's amazing what this artist can get away with. It is astounding. And then whenever somebody like myself points it out, I'm looking into it too deep. I'm hating. I'm this and that. The fact that you guys don't see a problem with some of the things that this dude has brought to the game and still says on records, you got to look at yourself and be like, why am I not I don't want to say offended. Why do I think it's cool that this person's able to say this when then nobody else would be able to say no shit like that? You know what I'm saying? From a person that has family members who are disabled and shit, like, that shit is corny, nigga. Even
for me, that has a brother that is quadriplegic, I didn't take offense to it. I'm not gonna lie, because I think I'm not gonna. One thing I'm not gonna do is police rappers' lyrics, and we know
No, I ain't even saying that.
outrageous shit. M gets away for outrageous shit, but I don't think that sums up the fact that like we can't put him in certain conversations where we know he's gonna be put in. You know,
does he deserve to be put in those?
I feel like when you have that album in that category, and we could still say he wins today, is more of a reflection of where we're at in hip hop still. Because if you don't want this shit to happen, drop dope albums. Because we like to act like other people didn't say outrageous shit. You know, we had a lot of rappers that said that. So I don't want to discredit him off his outrageous lyrics by saying he don't deserve stuff. We had rappers that said outrageous shit. Some of it was stuff that we dug because like NWA would be considered outrageous. Snoop stuff would be considered outrageous. Even some stuff that Biggie said could be considered outrageous. Probably not to the likes of him talking about, you know, these rape things and killing his girl and his mom and stuff like that. Not to that extent, but to weigh what's more outrageous than the other. I mean, that's a conversation we can have all day. I don't want to censor hip hop, but I look at it for if it's a good project, if it's a good body of work. The Death of Slim Shady wasn't a bad album.
I mean, look, you can say what you want, and again, it's not about censorship, but you come with one Christopher Reeves line in like 1997 or 98, you know, cool. But why are you continuously dissing not only a man that was paralyzed in that moment, you're dissing a dead man now, like. I'm sorry. That's just,
and I don't want to make it seem like I'm defending M, but when we're talking about lyrics and people that have said some stuff and punchlines that's not favorable to certain people, we can go back a long track list, man. I
didn't like Biggie coming at Pac when Pac was dead. I thought that was very distasteful, and I've been very vocal about that.
Even when like there's stuff that even me as a black man I hear, and I could be like, man, we got to do better. Like because I heard, you know, even Wayne. We love Wayne. Wayne had a couple questionable lines too.
Yeah, the
why do we accept certain stuff when certain artists say it, but if we put M on the pedestals like that? Think about how
I'm glad you mentioned the Wayne thing because with the Emmett Till thing, they blocked it out. He had to damn near go out there and apologize for it. And then we talk about Rick Ross when it comes to the Molly line or whatever, you ain't even know it. He lost his deal with that. He had, you know what I'm saying? He got taken off.
But we don't talk about
there were actual consequences. You know what I'm saying?
We act like Nicki just didn't talk about a woman's dead mom. You know what I'm saying? Like on a disc, like come on.
Yeah.
You know,
like Johnson with the super chat, he says we should protect our culture the way the CMAs do. I agree.
But, you know, like when we talk about lyrics, man, some people have said some outrageous stuff about people's. Let's think about how many people had Ike Turner lyrics. Like that wasn't a trauma behind that. Like,
yeah, I agree.
And people have so many lines, bro. That's why I said we can't police lyrics to talk about it. Me, I wait. Is he making good music? If it's not for you, it's not for you. But if we start going down a line of outrageous stuff that rappers say, man, we can have a field day with it and it will become a contradictory conversation. Let's just say he gets away with a lot of bullshit, and it's not your typical black hip hop music. It's cool. He gets away with a lot of stuff that he do, and we know why. But I can't say that discredits from a body of work being good or not just because it doesn't sit. I've listened to that M album. I don't think it's album of the year, but I actually do think it's a solid album. I do. But when we're looking at hip hop albums and what's going to be hip hop album of the year, man, we didn't really have much to pick from.
I think Dolce is the fan favorite out there. I think she's the one that people are rooting for. And, you know, you always want to root for somebody's breakthrough moment and big moment. The Raising Head with the super chat says, Kennedy style with your memory out. I agree. I was just listening to Supreme Clientele when Ghost said, "Dare one of y'all to Malcolm X me. Somebody might catch a Kennedy though." Yeah, I mean, you know, rap goes.
We had other rappers talking about beating women, dog. Like, you know, in lyrics, like talking about. Come on, man.
It's not cool. Not cool at all.
But made it sound cool though. Made it sound cool. You know.
Yeah, I mean, we can never.
You know,
But again, I think it's very different. And again, I'm not co-signing any of that. But when you get very specific, and I felt like this even when it comes to D Barnes, man, you know what I'm saying? I somewhat know D Barnes. I've had conversations with her and stuff. You don't want to talk about a traumatic experience, and you sit here and hear niggas talking about this and speaking a light about this in raps like it's cool. You know, I choke you out like Dre did that bitch and shit like that. It's like that makes it very personal, and I think that's my thing when it comes to Eminem's lyrics. We actually there's an actual face and a name and an individual and families attached to the things that he says, as opposed to just generalized things. You know what I mean? Kim is an actual real person. You know what I'm saying? Christopher Reeve is an actual real person. D Barnes is an actual real person. So it's a little different.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that when we talk about lyrics, we can go down a resume of ill lyrics that wasn't like the best when we look back at it. I mean, let's not act like Big didn't say you got a guy that kidnap kids, fuck them in the ass, throw them over the bridge. That shit was a
terrible. But again, it's not like he sat there and said, put Faith's name out there with it. You know what I mean? Like,
it's just so many lyrics that
different when you actually put a real person in it. Like, let's keep it real, man.
Like, times I've been done.
Kim didn't ask to be in this man's lyrics like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine the Future went out there. Imagine if Future did the same thing with Sierra. He'd be enemy of the state.
But he does worse. He promotes drug use. And I love Future, but we can't act like he hasn't been a poster child for that.
I mean,
so if we criticize one for what they do that impacts the game negatively, there's a slew of other rappers we could do that with.
Well, I think that when you want to talk about drug use, this motherfucker had a pill on the CD cover of his first album. I ain't never seen nothing like that. Hey, he is the king of that. The Razorhead with the super chat says, you heard with me and Poppy did. Left him on the road like the Cosby Kid. Terrible lines, man.
I mean, I would have to
guys are gonna come with all the bad lines. Now that was personal too.
You know, like Cam done said some crazy shit. There's really some stuff that we have to go back and think about, because when we think about hip hop, it always been something that appealed to the rebels. It appeared to the people with a voice that have something to say, and also people that says a lot of shit for shock value. And when we think about the lines throughout time, man, it'll be a long laundry list of stuff that when we look back at it now, it's crazy. You know, so we can't police those lyrics. It's actually going against our own interests as hip hop, because this is what made us kind of love it, is that people are saying things and getting away with it. Not to the extent of M, but people are saying stuff, pushing the lines that they'll literally get canceled for.
No one is saying to censor, but that doesn't mean you can't be disgusted by it. You know what I'm saying?
We feel.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, come on, man, that shit was whack.
Yeah.
There was a post going around. I saw it on Twitter. I forgot the person that posted it. Forgive me, but he basically was saying that Jay-Z's second verse on Renegade was the best verse on the song. And that made me go back and listen to Renegade a couple of times, see where the person's coming from. But I got to give credit where credit's due. Eminem's first verse on Renegade's the best verse in that song. Jay-Z's second verse could be the second best verse on there, maybe. And then followed by Eminem's last verse, and then Jay's first verse is last. I think that the problem with Renegade, well, first of all, Nas put it out there, and I think that's what made everybody run with it. Yeah. But I don't think Jay-Z started off Renegade strong enough. And I think when M came in the way he did.
Oh, man.
Now, his flow's not there. He's not in pocket. Yeah, he's not in pocket in the way that M is on there. He's not.
But you want to know why? And this is not even, let's just take me not being a Jay fan and me just looking at this objectively when I'm approaching music.
I never liked Renegade either. For the people in the chat, I'm just being
Renegade was one of those songs that like I was surprised it made it on the album because it didn't fit the flow of the rest of the album.
Should have been on the album.
People loved it, and I think another thing that we have to think about with this record is I think it's an M-produced record.
It is,
and it sounds to the likes of music that M will make. So,
well, hold on. I'll stop you there because I know the people in the chat are gonna say it was an Eminem and Royce 5'9" song first. Jay-Z went out there and got the record, took Royce off, put himself on it, put it on his album. It shouldn't have been on the album. Sonically, I agree with you. I think the Hustler and Jay didn't believe in some of the records and its ability to sell records on the Blueprint. So he knew that Eminem selling the units that Eminem had at that moment, having him on the record could possibly give it a fiscal push. I think that's my theory.
All right. So, and I'm not going to take away from this, but I feel like M's pocket with that record was just what that shit was designed for. So it has a different appeal. And when you really break down the lyrics of Jay and M, I'm like, what the fuck is M talking about? You know,
he's talking about something, and I'm not gonna.
But it's like in comparison to them, they're talking about two different POVs. You know,
but they're renegades in two different ways, though.
Exactly. So I like to think that, you know, people like to give M some credit for his verse on there because it's the delivery. The delivery, Jay's kind of relaxed on that, and M came in like, you know, with a different approach to it. I ain't no politician, but I'll kick it with you for a minute. You know, they don't call me, you know, I'm high.
They call me a minute.
Yeah. You know,
who's the king of this lyric? Who is that? Who's the king of this rude, ludicrous, lucrative lyrics?
Yeah.
Hey man.
The wordplay on there was crazy for him. Like he approached it different, as Jay is a little bit laid back and his stuff is more so. But I quote one of his first lines of that song all the time. Do you feel listen to music or do you just skim through it? You know, you know what I'm saying? Like even the first verse, when you really break down that verse and what he's saying, that was even a solid verse. I just think we give M, you know, a nod on it just because it's delivery, and we have to realize that that record was crafted for M. And
well, yeah, he produced it. I mean, again, and I've said this before, I don't believe that Eminem can rhyme over Premier tracks. I really don't believe he could have rhymed over Just Blaze or Kanye or anything like that. It took
not the way he raps now.
I mean, I don't think ever really, but
I think he can. But the way he raps now is a big difference from how he rapped then.
It is.
Yeah,
I mean, it's still not proven. Like he always rhymed over his own stuff, and even when Dr. Dre produced for him, it wasn't like Dr. Dre was producing fucking Still DRE and Next Episode for him. Dr. Dre changed. Even when you listen to 2001 and the production on there, the song that M is on is like wow, wow, wow. Like it's a whole different thing.
Let's not act like Jay dropped in, like M didn't drop in different pockets and deliver great verses too. Let's not act like he wasn't.
No, he killed Renegade, but he does it on his own. He does it on his own sonics, right?
But his verses on 50 albums, it's crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Those are still his beats, though. Like those are his beats.
But the subject matter is there, man. I'm telling you, like as far as
the subject matter is there on Renegade. I actually think that Renegade is one of his best verses.
Yeah, I do. But I also think that even with his with some of his guest verses on people's shit, he still spits at a high level with them. So, but when we're talking about, you know, Renegade, I would like to say that both of them killed it, but I would like to say like I just remember stuff from Jay in that song more than I do M.
Who got the best verse on there? Come on now.
I think I think Jay actually took it. When my ears now, and I'm listening to the subject matter, the content, I think Jay had the better verse from what he's talking about. I think the delivery was better for M.
Oh, let me go. Now, who's the king of the rude, ludicrous, lucrative lyrics who could inherit the title and put the youth in hysterics, using his music to steer it, sharing his views and his merit? But it's a huge interference. They say that you shouldn't hear, but maybe it's hatred I spew. Maybe it's food for the spirit. maybe it's beautiful music I made for you to just cherish, but I'm debated, disputed, hated, and viewed in America as a motherfucking drug addict. Like you didn't experiment. Come on, man. We got to give her credit.
I relate to what Jay's saying.
That's when you start to stare at who's in the mirror, and then you see yourself as a kid, and you get embarrassed. And I got nothing but to do but make you look stupid. And parents, you fucking do good. It's too bad you couldn't do good at marriage. I mean, yeah, man, we got to give him credit.
It's two perspectives. It's two perspectives. When I'm listening to what Jay's talking about and what M's talking about, it's like the only thing that separates it is the delivery and the rhyme scheme. But the perspective of what they're rapping from is dope for that album. I actually think that song, with how they're rhyming for two different perspectives, but still talking about in a renegade subject is dope. But I'm not gonna lie, man. When I listen to Jay's verses on it, it resonates with me more than M's verses.
So you would give Jay the nod because it resonates with you, as opposed to, I mean, this guy's more in pocket. You know what I'm saying? I think that his flow is better on here. I think that lyrically, I think that he's doing more things than Jay is lyrically.
It's just the rhyme scheme, bro.
The only thing that I think that, yeah, the rhyme scheme, I mean, that's a big thing. I think the only thing that Jay is doing and what he was gonna do regardless is just relate to, you know, basically black youth more than Eminem would, whereas Eminem is probably relating more to white youth than Jay would. So we can kind of cancel those things out. If we're talking about flow, delivery, lyricism, and, you know, and just perspective, I don't know, man. I got to give Eminem's first verse that nod. And that's me. This is me, the biggest Eminem hater on the net.
I mean, I don't know. I say that Jay got it, man, as far as the content on it. But like I said, the thing that separates them is the rhyme scheme and of course the content on it, which we know what they're aiming for. It was crafted perfectly. But I just think that like it's the rhyme scheme for M. That song, the beat was already crafted for him, and I feel like the thing that separates him is his syllables and the word play and his delivery when he first steps on it versus that J verse is more laid back, but what he's saying, I think it hits more for me.
I think Jay should have done a better job if he was going to jump into Eminem's world. I think he should have did a better job of, you know, catching the beat. I think he should have did a better job with his flow. I think he should have came in stronger on the first verse. He kind of was a little bit off, a little, you know, a little all over the place, where when M came in, he was in pocket. It kind of reminds me of when Biggie went into Bone's world on Notorious Thugs. But see, Biggie was connected. Biggie was hitting.
I think Jay wasn't
I don't think Jay was connecting on that record like he should have in the performance that M gave, because M gave a great performance. And I really think that, you know, Jay should have tried harder on there. Or maybe.
I don't think there's nothing wrong with Jay flowing.
Maybe Jay wanted Eminem to have a better, I don't know. But it didn't sound like Jay. It didn't sound like Jay was feeling that beat. Let's just keep it all the way above.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I really think that this wasn't something they got in the studio and worked with together. And I feel like it was a crafted joint, like how you said already. And Jay's on it. I don't think the way Jay rapped on it was bad. I don't think with him being in pocket was bad. But when we're comparing it to somebody who's rapping like how M did on there, then we're gonna start trying to find flaws in a verse that was really something we wouldn't pay attention to if that M verse wasn't on there. If this was just a Jay song with M's hook, we wouldn't be talking about it. We wouldn't be talking about it in a manner we're talking about as his verses being in pocket and content and all that. It's just when we're matching it towards somebody who came onto the record the way that they did, and using the rhyme scans they did, it's always going to appear to be better than what it is. And it was dope. He got busy on it, but when I look back at it, I really do think Jay had the better bars and the better quotables on that album than M.
If I had never heard of either of these artists and I just heard that song, I would say that I think that, you know, Eminem was the better rapper. If I had never,
that'd be a good introduction to even try to introduce people to them, because even for both artists,
Jay sounded uncomfortable on that record, and I think that what Jay ended up doing, again, it appears to be business. I don't know, but I know any music head or any music listener could listen to Renegade and the rest of the Blueprint, with the exception of Ola Vito and Jigga That Nigga Jigga, and understand that, okay, this song might not should be on this album. I think that the song was on the album because of how hot Eminem was at the time. And I do think that Jay, as an MC and somebody who prides himself on being versatile with the flow, was more up for the challenge of jumping into Eminem's world than taking the risk of Eminem not sounding great in his world. And this was the product of it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, even with M, I don't even put that in. I know some top M verses, and I don't think that verse on Renegade is better than his verse on Patiently Waiting on 50 album.
Really? I think it is.
Patiently Waiting.
I think his best verse on 50's album is
Don't Push Me.
Don't Push Me.
I like Patiently Waiting, man.
These are my ideas. This is my sweat and tears. This is me. Yeah, nah.
Over you think it's crazy, but they ain't crazy. Just facing shit. Basically, they ain't saying shit. They ain't saying like spraying 50, A to the K, get them away and bring Dre with me and turn this day into fucking mayhem. You come, yeah, come on, you staying with me? Come on, man. Like
no. I mean, that verse is cool. I didn't really like Patiently Waiting like that.
Patiently Waiting was crazy. I like M's verse on Don't Push Me, but I actually think I like Banks' verse on there too. But but I really think his best verse was on Don't Push Me, man. I mean, Patiently Waiting. The build up, how he came onto it. Don't let me lose you. I ain't trying to confuse you. When I let loose with this Uzi and just shoot through you a Zuzu. Come on. Like, you get the message of my getting through to you. You thought it's coming. You motherfuckers don't even know, do you? Like, the lines of how he's spitting on that shit, to me, is better than Renegade.
The one man on the planet that'll jump off of the Grand Canyon, hop out of the Grand Dam, and land at a handstand. Any man planning a battle will get snatched out of his clothes so fast it'll look like an invisible man standing. But that's the Eminem.
He got some joints, man. He got some joints. I know I mentioned her in the Grammy conversation, but man, what do you think about Cardi at this point, man?
Yeah.
I know it's a switch up this stuff.
You know, we can go out on this conversation. I feel like Cardi B not dropping an album, what is it? It's going on 7 years. Next year it'll be 7 years. And it feels like Cardi B has rode hip hop to success without actually doing the work. I think the crazy part about it all is when you look at the Glorillaz, the Megans specifically, even Nicki, Lotto, how many projects have these women come out with since Cardi has dropped Invasion of Privacy? And it's really sad that no one's even saying anything or even holding her feet to the fire. We're going on a whole decade where this person has one album and they're able to ride off of it. Like, at some point, you got to do the work and you got to actually add to the culture. We were just talking about, Nas putting out 6 albums in, a short time period. These people are actually giving catalogs to the culture. That's kind of what I look at it as, right? If you're an artist and you're living your life and your success and your lifestyle off of hip hop culture and hip hop music, what are you giving to hip hop, right? Hip hop gave you so much. I feel like that about Andre 3000. Hip hop gave you so much. It gave you this life. What are you giving back to it, right? Musically. And it feels like when it comes with Cardi, it's just take, feature, and no music. And, even being a reality star, and you look at Love and Hip Hop and these shows, like, they put hip hop in the title and they use the name hip hop to get people to tune into that shit. Love and Hip Hop's not about love or hip hop. And I think the Cardi's done the same thing culturally, and nobody is calling her on it. Like, how do you still get these nominations and you ain't put out anything? You haven't made that jump to say, yo, I'm about to put out this album. At this point, especially at the rate that people make music now and the type of artist she is too, she should be at least 4 albums in. Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, Hope's second verse was the best verse. You couldn't tell me I wasn't grown, especially on nights I brought something home, a quiet stomach was rumbling. Yeah, I mean, relatable. But yeah, man, I think people are giving Cardi a pass. I think that, you know, at this point, and I like Cardi, man, and the way she came in, and you know, the wave that she was on. But what exactly is she really giving to hip hop in that way? And at least in the past 7 years.
So there's parts of me that I agree with you, and there's parts of me where I have to throw her some bell. The part of me that I agree with you is 7 years since your debut album is crazy for a rapper. You know what I'm saying?
Any artist.
I would criticize any artist in the same manner. So I get you. But I can't say she necessarily didn't do some work, because we seen her come into the rap game, and beforehand she was making, you know, like little mixtapes and stuff like that. Even while the hip hop that made her famous, that blew her up, and then she dropped that Bodak Yellow, and that took off. And this is an artist that wanted it but didn't expect to get it as fast as she did, and they gave her all the resources to give a dope album. That project is a dope record. I honestly think that album, besides what people kind of put Nicki's projects in, and minus this new Glow album, I think Cardi's album as a female rapper tops any of the latest work that's been put out by any of these female rappers as far as a body of work as an album.
You know, I would say Rhapsody's Eve, but you know, it's just me.
So and I look at it like that. So I feel like she wasn't prepared for what was about to hit, but I feel like Cardi still finds a way to please the base, whether it's her on a feature. Because let's think about it. She does more for those artists that she's featured on than it does for them to give her that feature. When Cardi hops on those features, she kills it. She killed the Glow stuff. She kills the joints with Meg. Like, Cardi has consistently, her feature run has been dope. So I'm not gonna lie about that. Her feature run is dope.
But, you know, features, and again, man, it's kind of like the Andre 3000 argument, right? Doing a cool verse here and there is a lot different than actually putting out your own full record. And you know, and features also, you're piggybacking off of energy that somebody already has, you know, kind of created, and you're just jumping in and just adding to it. So, and not to mention, man, I mean, the elephant in the room here, she doesn't even write her own stuff.
Well,
so when you don't even write your own, no, I'm just saying, when you don't even write your own stuff, how is the creative process so difficult where you can't come out with any music? Because you would think that at that point, you know, writer's block and stuff happens. Now, if there was somebody who wrote their own stuff and they're just having writer's block and they haven't come out with anything for a while, but how the hell you got writer's block and you won't even write your own stuff?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think she never defended anything by saying writer's block. It's simply this, and it's just this simple: being scared. She's a person that is not your regular rapper that just drops something and go into her shell. She lives on the internet. She sees the reception. She has the battle that a lot of artists of today has, and that's trying to see what the reaction is going to be for the people and giving a damn too much. Like, because she sees the comments when she drops a record, when she does something, you see how they fuck with her. As a female rapper with a fan base, you haven't seen a loyal fan base to a rapper like this since Nicki. You know what I'm saying? And
but is she a rapper or is she a personality? Because
I feel like she's more of a personality for a rapper, because to be considered a full-on rapper, you have to actually fucking rap. And she does, she gives the features, she gives the singles, so she tries to please her base. But I feel like if the reaction is not a certain way that she expects it or something like that, it makes her scared. It makes her question what her stuff is going to come out when she just need to let her hands go and just let it go out, you know? But that's the thing. She's just scared to put out a record. But I do have a problem, and I could say this for anybody: rappers who don't release stuff. You know, I don't like people to hold on to it, and you keep on telling me something is going, you teasing it never come out. But we have to respect the fact that she's kind of cemented herself within female rap, that these new female rappers, besides going to Nicki, if they're not going to Nicki to get that grand feature, they're going to Cardi. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is. And it's damn near split where your team Cardi.
I think that's the social media effect. They know she got the followers. They know she has the voice online. And
they love her personality has exceeded the music. You know,
Yeah.
and so to the point that when you release something and people fuck with, they fuck with it just because they fuck with you. And I feel like that's a gift for any rapper to have right now, is that if you win them over in personality, you could throw something out there and it could be received well.
And that's why hip hop is in the place that it's in on a mainstream level, I would say. I think that, you know, when you talk about the non-mainstream artists, there is a level of quality control out there. But when you look at somebody like a Cardi B, who is able to be a personality and still thrive and still, you know, get, I guess, top dollar when it comes to features, still get that radio play, and had to drop the album in 7 years, it really does send a wrong message. Like, what exactly are you doing to be musically, to be on top of the throne? You don't write your own stuff. You don't, you know what I'm saying? You don't put out music. You put out more non-musical content than you ever do music. And even when she was supposed to come out here and do the One Music Fest, she canceled that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
sick, bro. I mean, it's evident she was sick.
Whatever. From a
she was sick. She was literally in the hospital when she made the stuff. Like, we can't do that to her, bro. Because when the
last time she performed, man?
She performs all the time. But we gave grace to Usher when he canceled in Atlanta. He canceled concerts in Atlanta, bro. Because
he performs all the time. Bro.
He don't perform as much as what Nicki did in the past amount of years. He had that residency, but for a minute,
yes.
But that was a residency. Before that, you gonna tell me that he performed more than Nicki? Nicki was performing pregnant. I mean, not Nicki. I'm sorry. Cardi was performing pregnant, bro.
He performed more than her, I'm sure. Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, we need to stop comparing Cardi to Nicki. Cardi doesn't rap. No album. Nicki has albums. Standout moments against GOATs. This is not a rivalry.
All right, 2 points. 2 points here. I don't like the Nicki to Cardi comparison just because the body of works don't match up. But let's not act, and I like to tell people this for Nicki all the time, and I love Nicki. Let's not act like her dominance isn't hip hop more than any other female rappers we like to think about. Her biggest records are pop records. Her biggest success is due to the pop records. The illusion that she dominates female rap was only because there wasn't no other female rappers out to compete with. So we put her in the queen of rap. Nicki gets busy. She could spit. I've heard her on records with Wayne spitting, records with Drake spitting. Nicki could spit at a high level when she wants to, but we cannot act like these last albums were like, they weren't like that. When you have it in your bag to where you could spit, but your biggest records are not hip hop joints, that says something to me. You know, so I don't like the comparison because I do think they're in different realms. But I think when we're talking about when I say the example of a high level for Nicki, I'm thinking about her verse on Monster. There's no female rapper that's given me a verse like that in a long time. You know, when I think about her impact to the game, as far as what she's pushing, as far as like the female impact, like I said, Cardi is the last one that had an impact similar to Nicki. But just like Cardi, we seen Nicki's come up. We seen the mixtape runs where she was running around with Fendi. We seen her the mixtape she's dropping, the build up to it. So these are two people we got to see in two different lights with two different come ups. Cardi, we seen her from, you know, the internet era and then reality TV, and to come to where it comes now. Even with her having writers, Cardi has bars. You know, we can't take it. Like, when have we ever started looking at female rappers as, oh, they don't write their shit and whatever? Then what do we say about Kim then? You know, because
because I think that the game has kind of been stepped up. I don't think anybody writes Megan stuff, right? Like, tell me why you think Cardi B is bigger than Megan. Megan's put in the work.
She makes better records.
Megan's the better rapper, right?
She makes better records. That's just what separates it. Megan's gave us.
But she doesn't even make records. Megan actually makes records, though.
No, she makes trendy records.
But she actually makes records. Cardi ain't got no catalog.
Let's think about Meg's biggest hits and who was on them. It was either a Nicki or a Cardi verse. Or let's not forget the stimulus package of Beyonce that early in her career. You know, like Meg's biggest.
All right, look, let's go to Megan's biggest songs. I'm gonna go on Apple Music right now, and I'm sure it's gonna. Let's see, Megan Thee Stallion, right? Her biggest songs, How I Look right now, and this is newer stuff. Bigger in Texas, Wanna Be, that's with Glorilla 2, Cry Baby with the Baby, Rock Steady with Flo Milli, WAP with Megan, with Cardi. Yeah, these got features. And then there's Machui, with the Yaki guy, Cash Shit with the Baby. I think Megan and the Baby should have made a project together, but hopefully
but the opportunity was shitted on. But when I really think about Meg as a solo artist and her biggest records are not her solo records.
It's true.
You know,
I just went
Big Ol' Freak was her first one that reached people, and people was like, But she also got some nod with being on a Wale pole dancer joint. And then, when she came out, like her first real, I don't know if we consider it's a debut or whatever it is, but you got a remix with Beyonce. Who that early gets features from Beyonce. And then, the internet, the dance, the TikTok, all it makes her bigger. And people, similar to Cardi and Glow, people loves Meg's personality. They were talking about driving.
Well, they did.
I see girls pouring liquor in their mouth from other ones. To this day, there's a culture behind Meg. There's a fan base behind Meg that's amazing. But when we talk about solo records and we want to compare it to Cardi, I haven't seen Meg go out there and get one outside the Body Yaddy Yaddy joint, and that's just an annoying record. But it's
an annoying record.
Different,
Who's this jumping in? Rob, what's up? I think that must have been a mistake. But yeah, the Body Yaddy Yaddy record is annoying.
Yeah, but so when I think about Cardi, Cardi's kind of been a stimulus package to some of these young rappers, with her verses. Sure. So the only knock that we have to give on Cardi is that Cardi, she hasn't came with another body of work, album-wise, an EP or something. Give us a mix of something. And she's throwing out singles and stuff like that. Even when we talk about Motorsport, her verse on Motorsport with Nicki in comparison was crazy. You know what I'm saying? So it's
who wrote that?
I don't know. But that's the only knock on Cardi, man, is not having.
Well, there's two knocks: no music, and Ghost Rider.
The music is there. An album's not there because she releases singles, she be on features. Even when she's not releasing an album for these 7 years, we have heard Cardi.
She's found a way to stay around, but
albums and disappeared. Cardi's still actively doing music.
There's no excuse to not make an album in 7 years after your debut studio album. It's just not in any genre. And you're that big of a star. I mean, you know what that tells me? And I said this when Kendrick was on his, break, if you will. Tells me that nothing you're making is really connected. Because I'm sure she's making music and she's recording music.
I can't say
like you said, she's been teasing it for a minute. She's been in the studio. Stuff's just not coming together well.
I can't say it's not connecting because people still love and quote her verses on these records, man.
No, I'm saying the stuff that she's making for her quote unquote new album is not coming together. I'm not talking about
the joint that she released with Dirk and Kanye. You could tell that was dated even from just the Kanye bars and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then Enough Miami, that was cool, but I don't think that was that big record as people say it is. She had the joint with Offset on both joints on Offset album now were dope.
That shit was tight.
The joint with Glow is dope. I mean, honestly, it's just about her just making her own body of work, man. I think that's the only thing that separates her from.
Listen, man, if you're gonna be the king or queen of this shit, you gotta have your own album. You just do. And taking a 7-year break, in my opinion, especially after your debut, it's a major knock. Because so many people have to follow up successes, and it's not about the success itself. It's about following that up. Literally won one championship and say, you know what, I'm going to chill. It's like, no, it's about winning that second one. It's about winning that third one. It's about continuously keeping it going.
So, you know what I think is another thing too, and I'm going to argue this on both sides. So I'm going to argue it from the artist perspective. When you are getting money and getting shows and you could just do this off your features and singles, and you see the reaction from artists and just the stuff that where your one album and these features and stuff has taken you career-wise, do you feel the need to make another album?
No, I mean, again, it's a blessing to be able to do that. But if you're actual talent and you're somebody who says, you know what, it's time for me to go out there and put out something new, then
But
yes. But if you ain't got it like that and it's not in you like that, yeah, I'm gonna sit here and take the low hanging fruit. But again, that goes back to what I originally said. What are you actually giving back to hip hop? You're just taking
well, the only thing
everything.
she didn't give away from hip hop
Everything
is an
that's easy.
album. She's
Yeah,
giving hip
you're
hop
taking everything
album.
that's easy that comes with that. But when it's time to actually give something to the catalog and into what's going on in the space, you're not willing to do that because it could actually reflect badly on you.
So, and just more from the artist perspective, with what she's done, like she's working with the younger artists, she's embracing the younger artists, which was something that Nicki got criticized for, and what she started embracing more. But there's along the lines of people that wanted to choose her side. That's what she works with. Your Bias, your Ice Spice,
Yeah.
whatever, right? So we see who she picks and chooses who she works with. Giving love to the younger generation. She gives the features, and she's doing this between 3 babies, a marriage, whatever. Here's the flip side where we look at it from the consumer standpoint. And this is my criticism of younger rappers today. Everything that they put out on the internet could be in their fucking music. And that's the problem. Cardi lives her life on the internet so much and let people into her world so much that it builds up anticipation for what people want to hear her talk about on an album, but it also takes away from it because all that content, all that frustration about her husband or the stuff that she deals with outside of music, that could be blessed. I mean, that could be put in the music. And I think a lot of artists are giving the internet more than what they're giving the music. If they take all of this outside stuff and put it in the music, man, we'll have some dope projects. So I think she's benefited off the internet, but she's like downgrading herself because of the internet as well when it comes
I
to
can agree with that. I think when you go out there and live your life on the internet, there's really nothing that you're able to offer to anybody musically. Whereas if these things happen behind the scenes, you could actually put it in the music and put it out to people, and they take it in like a Lemonade album or like a 444 or something like that. If Jay-Z lived his life on the internet, then 444 wouldn't even be a thing, or if it did become something, it wouldn't be as shocking or taken in the same way because it's like we already saw it.
Yeah,
So no, I get that point. I think that's a fair point.
Because I'm with you, Mike. I'm with you. I feel like to be in the conversation, I do feel like you need to drop more frequent albums, but it's not like she disappeared and took a hiatus. She's still doing music and doing features or whatever. But I think there's a little bit more things that go into a female rapper and their perspective that's a little bit more tougher on them and how they're weighed versus your male artists. I mean, just the fact that they're female rappers, a lot of people are not going to go listen to them or take them serious just because they're called female rappers. And I think there's a lot of expectations that are different from a female rapper than it is for a male and the pressures they have to deal with. And then along you throw in social media and stuff like that. We have watched this woman battle through the Nicki comparisons, the hate that comes along with the Nicki shit. We've seen her go through stuff with her husband. We've seen this woman have 3 babies and to still be relevant and do the things that she do. And still being able to be engaged with her fan base the way she is and give so much to us. I think there needs to be a little bit of bell, but like I said, the only knock would be her not dropping an album more current. That's the only knock I have for Nicki. If she does everything she's doing and is giving consistent, Cardi. If she's doing what she's doing and releasing these albums consistently, I don't think nobody has anything to say because she's hitting all the marks as far as connecting with her base, collabing with younger artists, doing features. I think she will hit all her marks if she just had the consistent albums and quality albums.
Well, we're looking forward to a new I say Nicki again. We're looking forward to a new Cardi album. Hopefully it happens really soon. And if you haven't checked it out yet, go check out Siobhan's interview with Akon. It's on the According to Hip Hop channel. And we'll have that article up basically breaking down the interview as well and get that out. And go check out Akon's new single too. It's called Beautiful Day. Akon's Beautiful Day. So but I guess you could take us out on that note when he was talking about his single.
Yeah, Beautiful Day. When I listen to it, it's nothing more to me than it's a pop record. It's a good feeling of a pop record. If you're a hip hop fan and you check for this and you're looking for hip hop, it's not that. But I'm not gonna shit on it and say it's a bad song because it's not. I actually like the record. I actually want to know what the direction of this album is gonna be. I feel like if that record is an introduction of what this album's gonna be, I wonder how that's gonna go, because I mentioned to him how he's able to get off certain genres and go to other ones and come back. I haven't seen him circle back around to hip hop in a minute. So I want to know how the sound of that's going to be. One of the biggest things is funny shit, Mike. When I'm looking at the comments, because how you pronounce my name, everybody spells it that way.
I'm so sorry, man.
It's not you, but I want to let everybody know. And I had to say it in the comments. Servon, Cervon. It's Servon. That's the name.
Servon. I've been saying your name wrong the whole time. Because Servon. I apologize.
But it's all good. No, when I see it, it's funny. Be like Siobhan. I was like, everybody to come. Good job, Siobhan. Nice interview, Siobhan. Everybody spelled it.
Gave you a whole new name.
I'm joke now, but
I'm so sorry, Siobhan, man.
Nah, just going back to the Akon one. I know the platform is according to hip hop, right? And I guess we don't consider Akon a hip hop artist, but to feel like just because it's a hip hop platform that we don't converse with people that it's not necessarily rappers, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice, because there's so many people that contribute to the culture of hip hop and are not actual rappers that should still be interviewed, because like we said, we got T-Pain from Akon, we got Lady Gaga from Akon, and we also got dope features and hooks from Akon as well within hip hop. So I think it was cool to have a conversation with him and to bring that into this platform, as well as it would be for anybody else that's not necessarily rappers but have contributed to hip hop. So I think that's it was a dope conversation. It was something different. It's not one that I feel like people was going to expect, and that's what makes this shit dope within the journalism world of interviewing people, is that we interview people that's not from our same walks of life, that doesn't resonate to what we relate to all the time, but nonetheless have contributed to the culture. They all deserve the nods to be talked to.
For sure. Ice Cube got a record coming out too, by the way. I see Super Duper saying that there's an Ice Cube Killer Mike and Buster record. I gotta go check that.
Man, he got a new album drop. He got a video out too, man. It features an artist here named Chameleon. It's a female rapper from here. She's in the video too. And I seen Marion was in the video too. It's like a funny video. This is the year of OGs releasing, man. You think we're gonna get that Cube album this year? Did it say it's dropping this year?
Yeah. He's dropping this year.
It is. Okay, this is the year of OGs. Yep. We got MC Light, LL.
22nd. I think it's the 22nd. Yeah, okay. I think that's the date. Yeah.
MC Light, we got LL, we got Common, we got we're getting Snoop.
We got Snoop and Dre.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think this has been a year for the OGs.
It really has, man. The young guys got to step it up. All right, hit like and subscribe. Go check out Servon's interview with Akon, and man, we'll see you guys next week or maybe sooner. Who knows?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.